All right, welcome into the latest edition of the second half draft show. I'm your host, Juice, joined by Headley and Drew. Uh, we've been flying through the team specific 7 round mock drafts for the last month and change. We're going to switch gears. We've drafted for all 32 teams. We're going to switch gears and we're going to get into Headley and Drew's wide receiver rankings as well as their cornerback rankings. So we're really solidifying our overall rankings by individual as well as our draft board. And it should work out to about a top 300. And that'll be coming either this Friday or next week, Tuesday or Friday. So be on the lookout for that. So what we'll do is we'll get started with the receiving group here, top 15, 2024 NFL draft, wide receiver prospects. Headley, you have a 15. Drew has a 15. We'll allow both of you to kind of delve into why you omitted certain guys, why you have certain guys higher than others, and to really just unpack what you've come across as far as your film study and what you like about these players. Also want to identify guys you feel are best suited for split end, the X, flanker at Z, or in the slot. So certainly want to work through that. Let me see what's going on here. I think Drew can't hear. I don't understand what's going on.
Technical difficulties. Early, bro.
Early
in the game. Early.
Early in the game. What's going on, D Kit? Mr. C. Prasky. As I mentioned, we'll get into these receivers here, 2024 NFL Draft. Top 15 receiver rankings for both you, Headley, and Drew. We'll give Drew a little minute here. To see if he
goes to God, man.
Can you hear us, Drew? Can you hear us?
Oh, so I'm looking down on my phone, bro. You started the live, bro. I'm like, dang. And the only reason I knew you started the live because it came up on my phone. Because I was on a different screen. And I'm like, oh, we started the live. Click over. Y'all boys talking. Mute, bro.
Can't hear nothing. Can't hear nothing. Wow, we really should have checked in with you before we started the live.
I'd have missed the whole music and everything, man.
Yeah, man. It's okay though. It's okay. You're here. You're here. We're all set to go here. We're gonna start with the receivers, as I mentioned. This will obviously address those that obviously are in the market for a receiver, right? NFL draft enthusiasts, fans of teams that have a need at the wide receiver position. Again, every flavor of your receiver. This might be the most talented group of receivers we've seen in a single draft class since about 2014, that famed draft class. I want to kind of get your thoughts on that as well. But really, all types of receivers, and then we'll transition to the corners. I know the fantasy folks will be, ear hustling as well as we discuss these receivers. So let's get it underway. And at 15, Headley, you have Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, and Drew, you have Jermaine Burton of Alabama. And I'm going to start with you, Drew. What is it that you like about Burton? And give me a little insight in terms of why he ultimately ranks as 15th.
Because he a baller, bro. He played for Bama. He played for Georgia. Lock him in, bro. It's guaranteed. Fantasy alert. No. So I think one of the biggest reasons why I like Burton and why he comes in at 15 is I think he's outstanding. I'm going to say I think he's a damn good vertical threat. I think he plays with the requisite physicality that I like from the receiver position. I think he has some quick twitch to his ability. I think he can play the slot. I think he can play the outside because of that physical ability. I think he separates, I think he's got some work to do in terms of his route running. I think a lot of his routes to me that I saw were vertical routes. I just think one of the biggest things that, and this is not his fault, played for Georgia. They don't use the receivers like most offenses use their receivers, and played for Bama where, quarterback didn't graduate in terms of getting through his progressions and getting the football down the field. So I think there's a lot of meat left on the bone with Jermaine Burton. I think his best football is ahead of him. There's a couple of receivers here who I think that their best football is ahead of him. But I also know that Jermaine Burton can be a little bit of I'm going to say it lightly, a little bit of a head case. But that's a part of who he is in terms of him being aggressive, him talking his talk to the corners, to the linebackers, whomever it may be. But it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being, top 5 in this class when it's all said and done. It's just that there's a lot of meat left on the bone, and you're really not sure what you're going to get from in entirely just because of the quarterback play and the way he was used at Georgia.
But before we transition, because and I'll let the cat out the bag. Burton doesn't make your top 15, Headley. He's outside of your top 15. You mentioned the quarterback play, and of course there were growing pains with respect to Jalen Milroe, right? He seemingly has turned the corner, looks really good. I expect him to have a huge 2024 season, but certainly there were some growing pains this past season. He transferred last year. He did get a season in with Bryce Young. So it's difficult for me to say unequivocally that, the quarterback play just wasn't good at Alabama, but I understand your point that there was a bit of a learning curve there transitioning from Georgia to Alabama. But the one thing that you did see wherever he was, obviously he played for 2 of the best teams in the country, let alone the SEC. You could see the big playability. You could see the flashes. You understand what I'm saying? So you're looking for more consistency. I think some of that could be attributed to the quarterback play most recently and the way he was utilized or not utilized in Georgia. Of course, Adonai Mitchell transferred out of Georgia as well because the passing game went through Brock Bowers ultimately, right? And the running game, those were the fixtures in that offense. But there's some off the field concerns. There's some temperament questions. So I think teams obviously are going to have to do their homework with respect to Burton, but very talented player. Absolutely. Headley, did you want to touch on Burton before you discuss?
He's the type of player. Oh, my bad.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You wanted to rebut. Go ahead.
I think he's the type of player that if you have a solid number 1 and a decent number 2, I think you throw him as that number 3. He could probably rise to be the number 2 at some point and be very, very dangerous, or just be a number 3 and be a problem for defenses to deal with. Right. So I think he's a good solid addition. Yeah,
I think that's a good assessment of what I kind of expect from him at the next level, right? He's not going to lead your team in targets. He's not going to probably won't lead the team in TDs, but he could lead you in, average yards per reception, certainly, right? His ability to stretch the defense and be that secondary or tertiary option in the passing game. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by his talent a lot. It's just the consistency for different reasons, right? Some of his own, some outside of his control. That really creates a little bit more volatility with him. Headley, did you want to touch on Burton before you get into to Malachi Corley?
Yeah, I could touch on Burton a little bit because, when I watched his Georgia film, I was enamored with him. I thought this guy was the guy. And then when I heard he was going to Alabama to be with Bryce Young, I was like, whoa, sky's the limit for this guy. But, kind of started out slow. Didn't really have that great of a season with Bryce Young. You guys spoke about it. Might be the learning curve. Trying to get on the same page in that offense with Bryce Young. So kind of gotten forgotten about until last season. He burst on the scene. He had some explosive games. He could stretch the field really well, track the football, big playability on the outside. It's just more consistency. I just want to see more consistency from him. And I think his best football is ahead of him. So, he just missed my top 15. There's a lot of wide receivers in this draft class. So, I could have made a top 25 easily, man, for the live, but I was like, we had to narrow it down to 15. And I think he was like 16 or 17 for me. So, yeah, he was almost there.
All right. What's going on, Kasim? Let's talk about Malachi Corley. He's your 15th ranked receiver, and obviously he projects as a slot. What do you think of him?
Man, they call him the Yak God, right? That's self-proclaimed Yak God right there, man. The yards after catch ability. A lot of comps to Deebo Samuel, and you see it, man. He's one of those wide receivers, but he's built like a running back. 5'11", 210 pounds, very explosive with the ball in his hand, fearless in the passing game. He'll go across the middle, take a hit, bounce off the hit, keep on running. So I love that ability with Malachi Corley. Very twitchy, can make guys miss in the open field. He doesn't run the complex route tree at Western Kentucky. But I like what I saw at the Senior Bowl. And what I saw at the Senior Bowl is why I propelled him into my top 15, because the big question was, can he run routes? Can he get open consistently and separate? And, he did it pretty good at the Senior Bowl. I wouldn't say he was Deebo Samuel separating at the Senior Bowl, but, he got open, he caught the football, and he showed that physicality. He always do. So I think getting him on the football team with a innovative offensive mind, get him the ball in space, get him some screens, some jet motions, even out the backfield. A lot of these receivers nowadays, you can line them up in the backfield, set them a toss like a Deebo Samuel, and just very explosive with the ball in his hands because he can run through guys or run past guys. So if you're making business decisions with a Malachi Corley, it's going to be a tough day for you and your defense, man, because he could go 6 on any given play. So that's why I got him at wide receiver 15. I think he's a guy that come in, plug and play, get him in the offense and get him in space, and he'll do damage.
Drew, what's your hesitation on Corley? He's outside of your top 15. What's your concern here?
So I know, first of all, I know that's your guy. Stamp him, right? But you got to say it. And I know he performed well in terms of the route tree at the Senior Bowl, but that is my hesitation still. I want to see more of it, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see more of it because, and again, not his fault,
right?
But I got to ding him for it, right? I got to bring it up because it is still something that's there. But like Headley said, man, he's get the ball in his hands, and it's like it's camera action for him. So I wish he got a little bit more work in terms of the receiver position in its entirety. Like a guy that we're going to speak about later on in XL, but we'll get there when we get.
Gotcha. Before we move on, just kind of final thoughts on Corley. I actually made mention of it, or we made mention of it on the X in terms of his usage. Right, we've seen guys that are really talented with the ball in their hands. Right, receivers who clearly can make a difference in the open field. They're tough to bring down. They make plays after the catch, right? Can be an extension of your running game. And of course, utilize in the short to intermediate parts of the field, they can really be difference makers. But a lot of those guys, it just never kind of materializes with a lot of them. I.e., Laviska Shenault, for example, right? Clearly, very talented player with the ball in his hands. But obviously he needed more polish, he needed more development from a receiving position or from a receiving perspective, and it never really materialized. Of course, he's now with the Seahawks, with the Nebraska. But I agree with you. He needs to land somewhere where they understand his current skill set and what he's comfortable with, which is mesh concepts, bubbles, reverses, tosses. Just get him the football, get him in space, give him 5 to 6 touches a game, while he continues to work on the finer points of playing the receiver position. Because as you mentioned, we were encouraged by what we saw in Mobile in terms of the route running. I thought he was actually better than I had anticipated, but still, there's quite a bit of work to do there. There's still some work to do there. So you got to understand that, 3 years from now, I expect him to be a much better route runner, assuming he gets with good coaching. But in the meantime, you don't mothball him. You find a way to get him involved in your offense. So that's Malachi Corley and Jermaine Burton coming in at receiver 15 for Headley and Drew, respectively. Let's move on to your 14th ranked receiver. And again, this pair of receivers aren't on both of your top 15 lists. So, Headley, you have Brendan Rice, and Drew, you have Javon Baker as your 14th receiver. I'm going to start with you, Headley. Let's talk about Brendan Rice.
Physical from snap to finish. When I first watched Brendan Rice in the season with Caleb Williams, I wasn't that high on him. I'll be honest, man. It's another guy, just like a Malachi Corley, where I saw him in the Senior Bowl, and he was Headley. He was one of the best receivers that week for me because just how physically he played from his release, from the catch point. He runs those routes really, really hard. He's not a guy that's going to really separate. He separates initially, but the long speed, I think that might be a little concern for him. But other than that, man, I just love the way he attacks the football in the air. He could get after it in the run game. Also, I think he's one of those guys that could be a legitimate X receiver at the next level. A number 2, number 1 receiver, because I think with him, man, he got the bloodlines. That's Jerry's son. So, he has that pedigree in him, man. So, I liked him a lot, Brendan Rice. I like his physicality, like I said, and what he could develop into later on in his career. Oh, mute. We on mute?
Yeah, we're on mute.
Oh,
Drew.
I thought I was.
No. Me and Drew are on mute. Drew, let's talk about Javon Baker.
Yeah. So coming out of the Senior Bowl, we were kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of, you know what I mean? And going and watching the tape, man. Listen, I think I got a type in terms of receiver, and I think I got a corner type in terms. I think I got a type when it comes to those two positions, and it's physicality, man. And both of those lukewarm. Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's it. Lukewarm, coming out lukewarm. That's what we take baths with, lukewarm water. Uncomfortable. I mean showers, not baths.
You taking baths, bro?
Grown man out here, grown man stuff, but no, he has the physicality that I like from the receiver position. I think he's a willing and able blocker. In terms of him getting into his route, I think that's kind of where he runs into a little bit of trouble. I think for college sake, I think he did a decent job, but there's a lot of wasted motion, a lot of extra movement with the hands flailing, and I know he's trying to fake guys out, make guys think he's going one way or the other. I think he does a good job in terms of setting corners up, in terms of maybe kind of what do we call it, stacking the corner, maybe getting behind them just enough for them to make the movement to go in that space, and then he's able to kind of break out. None of his routes ever look the same, which is what I kind of like from him. I think he has strong hands. He plays the boundary very, very well. I think that's probably his home in terms of playing an X receiver. I think he can play in the slot because of his ability to get down the field and stack the corner, safety, whoever's covering him. But he's and I think the issue with him is something that you can fix quickly. And I think you can fix it quickly because you get him in a room with the receiver coach, but you also get him in the room with other receivers that played in the league. And I think that's something that, can be fixed. Now, I think a concern I think you might bring up, Juice, is at the Senior Bowl, he didn't get into the routes quick enough. I think he might have been thinking through them routes, right, in terms of, what is the play? Where am I supposed to be? So that may be a part of it because I think he played a little bit faster when he was playing for UCF.
Yeah, there was a lack of familiarity, right, in terms of what he was being asked to do, and that obviously can create a challenge for a young receiver, right? As you're learning a new offense, and certain teams, certain coaching staffs are going to say, "Look, I need you to learn all the receiver positions." I know you can play the X, but you got to play the Z. You need to be in the slot. You know what I'm saying? I need you to be part of this bunch. You understand what I'm saying? So I think from that perspective, he has some work to do. You mentioned kind of the superfluous movements, and I think Brendan Rice has some of that as well. Although Rice, I believe, is more polished, right? I think from an understanding of what he's being asked to do and just knowing where to be, I think he's ahead of Baker. But Baker is very talented. I assume a team that selects him, if they're not having to lean on him early on in 2024, they kind of work him in the second half of his rookie season. I think he's talented enough to take off, but he's going to need a little bit more time. Rice, on the other hand, I think he's ready to go. There's just some limitations. He and quite a few of these receivers have had some concentration drops, but I really do love the physicality as well. Headley. He's a true X, plays with the chip on his shoulder. He's almost as if he's trying to prove himself, right? The fact that he's Jerry Rice's son, obviously, this is the greatest receiver of all time, and he doesn't want to necessarily be known as Jerry Rice's son. He wants to carve out his own name, and I think that actually comes out on the football field. So, two guys that I think can actually be X receivers in this particular class, and the reality is, in this draft class, you have all types of flavors of player, right? And at the receiver position, as I mentioned, you have X's, you got Z's, you got slots, you got them all. You have them all. So I like these two prospects, but I can understand why they're ranked a bit lower here because there's a little there's some growth that needs to take place with both players for sure. All right. Good evening, Pete. Glad you joined us here this evening. Let's move on to your 13th ranked receivers. And Headley, you have Xavier Worthy, and Drew, you have Roman Wilson. And I'm going to start with you on this one here, Drew. Roman Wilson coming in at 13, obviously a very strong Senior Bowl performance, not necessarily used at a high clip here in Michigan. Michigan had a very specific plan of the way they wanted to play football, but Roman Wilson certainly turned heads in Mobile. Why is he ranked 13th for you?
So I got a saying here. that as I was watching his tape, it just came to me. And man coverage, you look to create separation, and in zone, you look to keep the separation. And I think he did this very, very well in zone coverage. He was able to find the hole in the zone. If he saw, someone kind of leaning one way or another, maybe watching the quarterback's eyes, he was able to kind of keep himself in that open space. I think if it's a short to intermediate game, if you can get the football in his hands, man, he's a guy who also can break away. I don't think he has, some crazy speed, but he has that we talk about, guys who can run the 40 and can run it in a full flat, right? But you don't necessarily see that on the field. And then you see guys who, you look at the tape and you're like, well, he probably run about a 4.5, but when the ball's in his hands and he's running down the field, he's the game speed is going in the other direction. It's going up, right? He's a guy with 4.5, probably running a 4.3, 4.2, right? When the ball's in his hands, with some breakaway speed, strong hands. He's a guy who works back to the football, but also in the scramble drills, man. He seemed to be the guy that JJ McCarthy was looking for consistently.
Yep.
He's not a big guy, but he kind of took the ding for me a little bit because, like you said, offense they were in, unfortunately, that's just kind of the way that worked out. But at the Senior Bowl, he was routing guys up. He was the best receiver there, right? Outside of maybe my guy, the Gator,
Ricky.
But he was separating, and I talked about him being dominant in zone coverage in terms of watching the tape. When you go to Senior Bowl, it's man coverage. He's guys 4, 5, 6 yards away from him, and you're like, how did it happen? Hey man, good feet, good hands, good plan. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. Obviously, I know Headley's rankings, right? We're going to get to it. And Headley, I don't want to belabor the point because I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak on Roman Wilson more. But there's a pretty significant disparity between your rankings as it relates to Roman Wilson. So we'll unpack that a little bit more later. Headley, your thoughts on Xavier Worthy?
Man, he's a home run hitter. You got guys that can hit singles. You got guys that can hit doubles, like Brendan Rice. But you got the home run hitter right here in Xavier Worthy. He ran that combine breaking record. It was at 4.21 speed. It's ridiculous, man. And it shows on tape. The speed shows on tape for Xavier Worthy. He's a smaller wide receiver, about 165 pounds, but he can get open vertically quick, fast, in a hurry. Those vertical cuts really stands out. He separates deep in space. And that deep connection, that Quinn years, it was kind of off, especially in 2022 where kind of overthrew him a little bit. So if he gets in the right situation with a quarterback that can hit the deep ball and hit those home runs, he's going to be a problem at the next level, man. He got really good feet. He can start again. He gets the acceleration really quickly. And it just those things you can't teach. You can't teach speed. We've seen guys in the league that come in with blazing 40 times that didn't really pan out. A guy that comes to my mind is John Ross right now. But John Ross battled with injury, so if he could stay healthy, sub 170, sometimes you get hurt a lot being so small in the league. But we've seen guys like Deshaun Jackson do it for a long time. So I think Xavier Worthy could be that role. Could it be that Z receiver on a football team? Just great with the ball in his hands. So explosive as a runner. Not really shifty, but just juice. He's a guy that I saw get a toss out the backfield and it caught sidelines and just score it, from like 50 yards out. So, that explosive nature with him it's just scary for defenses. You got to have an extra safety with him. It can open up the field for other guys on the football field. So, just having that dangerous weapon. If you go to a team like, say, the Chiefs or something like that with Mahomes or Josh Allen, it's that's a scary predicament for NFL defenses.
I think your point regarding how his speed, it opens things up. It opens up the field, right? It forces defenses to obviously to be cognizant of his ability to score from anywhere. I don't know that Xavier Worthy, and you mentioned the health, right? That's going to be a big issue or at least a challenge, right? Hopefully he stays healthy. I don't know that Xavier Worthy is going to have huge volume, right? It's probably going to be a 3 to 4 targets a game type of deal, unless you get with a particular coordinator who says, listen, we're going to formulate this offense around you, make you the focal point of our passing game. It's unlikely, but again, it's lightning in a bottle. And again, I think there's a lot of value in what he does in terms of opening up the field for everyone else. So He's obviously ranked lower in your top 15. He makes your top 15, but ranked lower in your top 15. What are your concerns? Is it the size? Is it
it's the size
hands?
and the
What's the concern
drops.
here?
There you
Gotcha.
go. It's the size with him, being able to stay healthy at that size, and the drops. Every now and then he's going to drop the pass. He's not going to secure it. You see the flashes. You see the big playability where he does the Willie May style and catch the football. Then you see it when it goes right in his hands, and he drops the football as well. So just more consistency with the hands, and just running the route tree, running the full route tree. Because a lot of times with these fast guys, they can't get in and out of their breaks as quickly. Especially in a short to intermediate game, he separates really well deep down the field. But that short to intermediate separation and just that physicality at the catch point also. He's going to struggle with that at the next level with guys that's bigger and stronger than him.
What do you think, Drew? And I know you're gonna discuss Xavier with it. Maybe I save it for that. So let's move on. I'll save the conversation or at least my question regarding Xavier Worthy for a little later in the show here. Let's move on to receiver 12. And you guys synced up here. You guys
Nice.
synced up in your rankings in terms of who you consider your receiver 12.
Who is
and I'm
that, bro?
sure that's Troy Franklin. That's Troy Franklin. I think this may come as a surprise to most of our viewers here, and want to thank the viewers. Those of you on the X, we recommend joining us on YouTube so we can interact. You understand what I'm saying? Get in the comments. But you guys seem to be lower than a consensus on Troy Franklin. And Drew, I'll start with you. Matter of fact, I'll start with you, Headley. Why? Why is that?
Man, coming into 2023, I thought Franklin was a top 5 wide receiver, and the tape shows it as well. Because he runs with this effortless gear, route running, subtle moves at full speed. He has the versatility to play inside and out. I think he's a mismatch against safeties, especially with space. He could turn DBs around, turn those hips around. He adjusts to the football really well, finds holes in zone. There's a lot to like about him. Elusive after the catch. I actually see some Garrett Wilson in his game a little bit. Why he's not higher in I think he could be as high as number 5. In my rankings, 5 to 12. He's in that range. But there's some concerns also with him about his release, against press coverage. He's a smaller guy as well, just like a Xavier Worthy. And then also I watched the gauntlet drill in the combine, and something about that drill with him where he was fading away catching the football. It just, you got to be stronger at the catch point. You can't fade away, give the defender an extra yard
Giving
or 2.
ground. Yeah, it's a game of inches. Yeah.
So he has easy speed. He's a top-notch accelerator, speed before and after the catch. He has a knack of getting behind defenders, stacking them guys, but just struggling against press to me, and just catching the football at the catch point and not fading away from the football. I think that's why, he's a slender guy. He's 176, and that's why he can't really get up there with the big dogs. We're going to talk about the big dogs later on, but, that's my reservation on him. But, man, the talent is there. The juice is there. So if he gets on the right football team also, with that vertical threat that can open up the hole, just like Xavier Worthy, both of those guys are comparable to me. He's a little bigger than Xavier, but they play the game similarly.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Drew, your thoughts on Franklin?
Yeah, Headley said a lot, and I think he he kind of encompassed it all. But I'm gonna say this: when watching him, when he was dominant, when he was Troy Franklin, receiver 5, as Headley was talking, or possibly receiver 5, there was no one standing in front of him at the snap. They gave him the space. They were fearing the speed, the quickness, whatever it was, the quick twitch, whatever it was. They were fearing that from him, and so you just gave him carte blanche to do what he wanted in terms of getting open, right? I think once he was challenged, go back and watch both of the Washington's games. Number one, stamp it. Muhammad was number one. He was kind of, I ain't gonna say manhandling him because it wasn't that bad, but it was to the point where you could just see Franklin was he just got a little frustrated. He was always on him, always in his ear, always around him. Even if Franklin caught a pass, man, Jabbar, he was right there with him, right? Saying, I'm gonna be right back here with you because I know what your weakness is, and it's these hands and it's this length that I'm gonna put on you. Right. And even when the ball was in the air, Franklin looked a little uneasy about, oh man, this guy's kind of still all over me. So it's that perceived physicality, that perceived I'm touching you. It's that perceived. It's just he's got to work on that. And like Headley was saying in terms of the gauntlet, bro, you can't be fading. Nobody's there. It's just you and the line, bro, in the football.
Don't be scared of the ball.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's get it, man. So, could have been a little bit nervous, with that drill, a little bit uncomfortable. But yeah, man, it's just I mean, the bad kind of hurts them, and it's a weakness that most teams will implement when you're on the football field, right? So,
I can understand. I can understand why he's outside of the top 5 because he hasn't demonstrated, right, to this point. He hasn't demonstrated the ability to deal with that physicality on a consistent basis to this point. Now, is he the 12th best receiver in the class? It's a very talented group. So that obviously is part of the conversation, part of the debate. Not unlike Xavier Worthy, I just think that speed, and he ran 4.41 at the combine. I think he actually is faster than that on the field. He's a blur, right? I think he just has that ability to open things up for everybody else, and I think there's value in that. I think there's a lot of value in that, and of course the ability to score from anywhere on the field. Shrewd play caller is going to find ways to get him involved. But to your point, you can't necessarily put him in the top 5 if you don't think he's going to be a true number 1. You understand what I'm saying? So I certainly understand him being outside of the top 5. I'm not sure if he's the 12th best or the 8th best or perhaps the 7th best. There's kind of a, there's some uncertainty there. I think he's better than the 12th best. I will say that though, for my purposes, I do think he's better than he's better than the 12th best in my opinion.
Yeah, I have 5 through 12 really close. From my number 5 to number 12, it's super close. I have the big 3. We know who the big 3 is. We'll talk about that later. I have a tear break, and then I have my number 4. Then I have a tear break, and then 5 through 12. So, he could be as high as 5, Troy Franklin, as low as 12, but it's so close. It's so close with all those wide receivers.
And I would say this too, like I was saying about Burton, if he's on a team that he doesn't have to be the alpha, right? He can be that 2 or that 3. Now we might be cooking with some grease, and let him figure out that physical thing. Although if you throw him in the slot, usually that nickel back is usually willing to put hands on you. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I got him.
Laura Get asks, have we been discussing the best landing spots? And I will say this, you guys are welcome to offer your thoughts with respect to that. But when we turn this live into a standalone video, we will detail our preferred landing spots, obviously give a little bit more insight in terms of the scouting report as well. So be on the lookout for that. But as it relates to your analysis, certainly if you feel strongly about a particular team in terms of where these players might land, let the audience know. All right. Let's move on to receiver number 11 in this class, the 11th ranked receiver here in the 2024 NFL draft. Headley, you have Jalen Polk, and Drew has the aforementioned Xavier Worthy. So, Drew, let's talk about Worthy. Let's talk about Worthy and kind of finish the discussion around him. I mentioned that speed, obviously, he sets the record for 40 time. It's clear. It's evident on tape. Of course, there's some concerns with drops. Some of the finer points in the short to intermediate part of the field, you can certainly, nitpick with respect to that. But I really do believe there's a lot of value in terms of what he does as far as opening up the field for everybody else on the offense. And I'm just wondering, right, from a size perspective, he resembles Deshaun Jackson, right? But you guys recall when Deshaun Watson was firing on all cylinders in Houston and there was a healthy Will Fuller? Mm-hmm. We had concerns about Will Fuller coming out, right, in terms of the hands and the consistency. I think that's the player we could be talking about here. You mentioned it, Headley. He gets with one of those upper echelon quarterbacks. It could be lights, camera, action. You understand what I'm saying? And have some of those big type of years. Maybe not necessarily every single season he's going to put up double-digit TDs or something like that, but certainly I think he can have some really stellar seasons, assuming he gets in the right situation. So, Drew, what are your thoughts? Do you think he favors comparably to a Will Fuller type, or do you see a different pro that he more closely resembles?
Well, you know, I don't do the comp thing. I'm terrible with that.
No, that's why I asked you. That's why I asked you.
So that's why you asked me. Didn't you say he was Devonta Smith
Light. Yes.
Yeah. So you flipping it to
Yes.
Will Fuller? Is that
I
what we're
think I
doing?
think I like the Will Fuller comp a little bit
Yeah, I
more.
like the
little
Will
better.
Fuller comp because
I like it a
Devontae
little
Smith
bit
route
more.
running, it was, immaculate compared to those two guys.
Yeah,
Right.
and I
That's true.
thought, frankly, Worthy's best year was his freshman year.
Yeah.
That's the Devontae light, right? I think over the last couple of seasons, whether it be changes with Steve Sarkisian or what have you, I'm not sure what the reason was. He moved further away. The pendulum swung away from Devontae, the Slim Reaper, because of course Devontae is slight. You understand what I'm saying? So, but I thought early in his career that there was some shades of Devontae Smith as he's progressed. I like the comp to Will Fuller a little bit more. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I think when you talk about what he can be for your football team, him doing what he did at the combine, we using the word, he stamped it. Like you're gonna have to respect and fear that speed that he has, right? He's shown it on tape. You've seen it at the combine. His big playability down the football field. We spoke about in terms of his short to intermediate game has some work to do. I think that may have a little bit more to do with just kind of how they
utilize
were using him.
Anything else.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
So maybe he just didn't get enough work there. But I think he has the ability to do it, because I've seen him, run some comebacks, some curls, some digs and things like that. But for the most part, he was working in the slot, trying to get down the football field. But them hands, I seen him drop a touchdown pass that could have won him a game, and then I seen him catch a big time pass that won him the football game. So that is a concern. I think it's more of a concentration thing versus just having brick hands, right? That people kind of associate Quentin Johnston with. But yeah, I had to go there. My bad.
Quentin Johnson. Could have been a lot of guys, but you went Quentin.
Yeah, you went Quentin, man.
Most recent, man. And listen, I was pushing that guy, man. I was like, the hands, he gonna get it together. But due to his positioning. But yeah, man, Xavier Worthy, I like him here. But y'all spoke about in terms of the injury, the size. I'm not too concerned about the route running, but the drops, man. So
yeah,
that's kind of why I got him where I got him.
Yeah, and I compared him to like a home run hitter earlier, and with home run hitters, they gonna strike out also. And I guess that's the drops. The drops is his strikeout. So they could hit big or they could strike out 3 times in the game. And like you said earlier, Juice, it'd be those stat lines where it's like he might have 1 catch and be wiped out the game, or have 4 catches for like 180 yards, 2 TDs, something crazy like that. So it's just a lot of volatility.
Feast or famine to his game. Yeah.
Yep. That's that Carlos Pena, bro. That's what that is right there.
Yo.
Yeah,
that's below the Mendoza line right there. That's below 200 right there. So yeah, I'm with you there, Headley. I considered the comp to Tank Dell, and there are similarities there. It's just the route running. Dell is just a much more proficient route runner than Xavier Worthy. And again, I thought Xavier Worthy was on that track, but perhaps it was usage, whatever the concern was, whatever transpired, he didn't necessarily get to that point. But I don't hate that comp. I think that's actually a solid comp as well.
Yeah.
All right,
my wide
Headley,
receiver 11.
Yeah. Let's talk about Jalen Pope.
Jalen Pope, man. This is another guy. Like the last guy in Troy Franklin, where he could have easily been wide receiver 5. I love the skill set at Washington. Matter of fact, in that Washington offense, he was the first guy I noticed. It was the beginning of 2022 season, and I was like, who's number 2 on Washington? Penix is hitting him deep time after time. And this is before I saw Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze became the lead dog later on, but Jalen Pope has lead dog in him also in that offense. He kind of had that rock you to sleep route running ability before he separates. And the last guy I remember scouting like that was Justin Jefferson. Jefferson would kind of rock you to sleep in his routes and then separate after he makes his cut. And, he has juice after the catch. Jalen Pope, he can accelerate, he can stack DBs deep. And also he makes big catches in big moments, man. And that's something Pope, the tape, it shows up every time. In the biggest moments, he'll come up, go over the top of somebody and make a big catch. And his ability to catch passes in tight windows in traffic, I really love that ability. Very strong hands. His hands are it's like viper grips right there. He just snatches out the air. And also he can play above the rim, high point. And then he wins. He's not like the best route runner, but he wins at the top of his routes with subtle route running, and he separates and gets open. So, Yeah, I think he's going to be very effective in the league. I think I might be a little too low on Jalen Pope actually at wide receiver 11 because there's a lot to like in his game, man. Like I said, he could be easily wide receiver 5.
Yeah, you too low. You too low.
Yeah,
You got him
I
higher?
agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Too low.
I think I'm too low.
Too low. Too low. Moving on, and we're going to round out 10 through 15 here. Headley, you have Ricky Pearsall as your receiver 10, and Drew, you have Xavier Legette. I'll start with you, Headley.
This is Drew's guy, man. Ricky Pearsall. You know, I called him an inside wide receiver earlier, and Drew had to correct me. He's like, nah, he can do the outside also. He's inside, outside versatility. When I watch the tape, man, he gets open in the middle of the field. Very nice route running. And it's a quarterback, man. I rewatched him a little more today. I watched all his targets for the season. And that quarterback, man, it hampered his game a lot. He was open a lot, just couldn't hit him. They couldn't connect. They're very inaccurate. Either the quarterback was inaccurate or he didn't wait for Pearsall to set up his routes. He kind of threw it too early to him. Because you see it with Ricky, man. He has very good route pace. Like I said, he gets open across the middle of the field. Incredible highlight reel catches. You know, that's the thing that he made Sports Center for time after time. Those one-handed catches, very tough, great hands. I say he does a good job of setting up defenders with his route tempo, create separation. I think he can be helpful in the short passing game. You just got to keep him off press. I think press is where he kind of struggles a little bit. But if you keep him off press, get him in those bunch formations, set him in motion, get him a free release, man, I think he can be very dangerous in the middle of the field, man. And there's 3 guys. We're going to talk about my other 2 guys that I love in the middle of the field. It's him, Roman Wilson, and Ladd McConkey. I think those guys have high floors in this wide receiver class. They don't have the huge upside like a Xavier Legette that Drew's going to speak about next. But, man, I think they have really good floors and could come right away and be a plug-and-play guy in the slot for NFL offense.
So, Drew, before you begin, I just want to say you're too low on XL, first and foremost. First and foremost, I want to get that out of the way. But give us your thoughts on Xavier Legette.
So first of all, I think we've identified that Juice has a type, okay, in terms of his receiver, okay. He likes guys that are physical and that got a little stock to them, and can make things happen with the ball in their hands. And I think Legette is that guy. I think he is a step above, obviously, because he wasn't in my rankings, from Malachi Corley, who,
physical.
Yeah, physical. I think in terms of the question for him was health and route running. Those are the 2 things, right? And so that's still a question with Legette. But my man, let me just pull it up,
bro. Your boy Steve Smith.
6'3", 227. Oh no, I ain't pulled the
6'1".
Hey, 6'3". Yeah, we thought he was 6'3".
6'1". You're right. But my man has 71 receptions for 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, and I don't think he played every game this year.
No, he did not.
So he's a big play waiting to happen. And unlike Malachi Corley, he can run a route down the field, make a play on the football. You know that's what he can do. He will high point the football, use his body to shield off defenders. Legette he's just a little bit of a mystery, man, because it's like, what is his true potential? What is his ceiling? What does that look like? And so I think, teams are just kind of like, I don't know. I was standing in front of him as he was talking at the Senior Bowl, and they said, hey man, what do teams want to see from you, man? Or no, that's gonna be what were teams asking you in your interview? They were like, where the hell you been at for the past couple years, man? Right? And injury, and I think he has some family stuff going on too, but injury, man. And
I think he lost his parents. I believe he lost his parents.
Right, and I know he's got a sister or 2, so it's been a little tough, a little rough for him. So you kind of give him a pass there, obviously. But yeah, man, lights, camera, action, bro. Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah. I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Before we move on to receiver 9 for you guys. I think if I'm going to be wrong about a receiver, he's the guy I'm going to be wrong about. He's the guy that I'm going to overdraft in this particular draft class. And because it's only 1 year of production, and he's still relatively new to the position because he hasn't been on the field. He was a high school quarterback. Of course, you know what you can do with the ball in his hands. He returned kicks. The explosion is obvious, right? But the body control is there. The ability to high point the football, the ability to get both feet down. And I saw Steve Smith talking about him earlier today, and he echoed a sentiment that I have communicated throughout the pre-draft process as it relates to XL, and it's that just give him a little time, man. He just needs a little bit more seasoning. He needs a little bit more coaching. You know what I'm saying? To really unlock everything, for him to be more of a polished receiver. I don't know that he's ever going to be a savant necessarily, but I think there's another level or two in terms of his route running. And I think if that's in place, along with a decent bill of health, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem. There aren't going to be enough defensive backs that can handle that physicality, that explosiveness. There aren't enough. And he's not one of those guys who's just fast but can't deal with the press, can't deal with the physicality, can't catch, make the contested grab. He can do all of that. He checks those boxes. So, again, if I'm going to be wrong about a receiver in this class, it's going to be Xavier Legette. Moving on to receiver 9. Headley, get in there. Let's talk about XL.
XL, man. Burst on the scene week 1 of this last season against North Carolina. I seen the number 17. I seen South Carolina. I'm like, who is this guy? Is this Alshon? Is this Alshon Jeffrey? Or, reincarnated? Is his nephew or related? I'm not sure because, he gave me a lot of Alshon vibes, man. Like you guys said, great body control. He makes those 50-50 situations like 80-20 for him. 6'1", 221, 4.39 speed. He's just a load to deal with after the catch. I think he has a nice combination of twitch and power. For a bigger guy, I like how he stops on the dime. He comes back to his quarterback, makes those catches. Like you said, the route running needs some work, but those hitch routes, those comeback routes, he's pretty good. Good footwork with those routes. He's a creative runner after the catch. Hard to bring down. I saw him catch a 3-yard drag and just turn it upfield, 22 miles per hour.
20.
A guy.
I think
22.
I think he got the 23, bro.
23 miles per hour. That's even crazy. I had it at 22.
It might have been 22.3. It might have been 22.3. Yeah.
Yeah, man. He's just so fast, so big, man. And you can't teach that. You can't teach size. You can't teach speed. XL has both of those. You can stack DBs. I like his body control. His high pointing skills is displayed at the Senior Bowl, all on the tape. I know, we had some issues with injuries and the route running, but I think he got good suddenness in his game, physical receiver. And you know what I call him? He's like a power forward, NBA power forward that could box out defenders.
Wait. What era of the NBA, bro? Because this era.
yeah.
Come on, bro. Everybody talking about this era.
I'm showing my age a little bit on that. I'm talking 90s basketball, man. Boxing out, Charles Oakley, those kind of guys. Dennis Rodman, you know what I'm saying? The box out ability, man. He has that. He catches those balls in contested situations. He can help in the run game also because of his frame to block. Like you said, route running needs a little work. I saw a couple drops on tape also, and he's still developing, man. Like you said, 2023 was the only real production for Legette, man. So, like you said, just give him a little bit of time. Before 2023, he only had 30 targets his whole career. So just give him some time, and he could develop into one of those alpha X wide receiver ones, man. So, yeah, I like Xavier Legette here at wide receiver 9 in my top 15.
All right, Drew. Explain to Headley why he's too low on Jalen Polk.
Bro, did you see how he spelled his name, bro? It's different, bro.
With an apostrophe, right?
It's different, man. You got Jalen McMillan, you got Jalen Daniels, you already know what time it is, bro. His is different, man. He got the apostrophe in there and everything with his name, man. So you got to give him his kudos, his credit there. But no, I mean, Headley kind of spoke about in terms of his ability to get down the football field, and this is one of the receivers I think wherever he plays, I think he's gonna hit the ground running.
Stamp it.
You know, hear me? I'm getting too excited, man. I hit the mic.
Yeah, he's gonna hit the ground running.
Yeah, he gonna hit the ground running when it comes to whoever he ends up with. And excuse me. I think his best position for me is probably in the slot, just because of the damage he can do there in terms of what he can do for the offense and what he can do against the defense because of his ability to get down the football field quick, fast, and in a hurry. I think when he's running his routes, up until he hits the top of the route, everything looks the same. So you're not really sure what he's going to give you. If he's going to break you off like a Kit Kat bar. one of the concerns I had with him coming into this season was his hands, man. And I think me and Headley kind of talked about this. I think Headley, you said earlier, I think this was the summer scouting. I never remember what the name was called. Summer scouting. I think you were like, nah, I think he got hands, bro. And I think you had checked. It was like maybe a couple of drops. I don't think it's anywhere close to Xavier Worthy, and that was the 2022 season. This past season, I think he cleaned that up. And he kind of, it's one of those boxes I needed him to check, and he checked it. And when Jalen McMillan went out, Jalen Polk, it was the Jalen Polk show from there on out. And when Jalen McMillan came back, when Jalen Polk came back, Jalen McMillan really didn't, because that was the guy that I really loved for the Huskies outside of obviously Rome. But yeah, Jalen Polk did his thing, man, this year, and he deserves to be in anybody's top 10 in terms of the receivers, man. Period.
Mute. I don't know if he has the same utility that Robert Woods kind of offered in Los Angeles, but he's like a souped up Robert Woods to me from a receiving perspective. I think he can do more damage in the deeper parts of the field, but the short to intermediate part, the way he moves, it reminds me of Robert Woods. It reminds me when Robert Woods kind of took off once he landed in Los Angeles. So I'm a big fan of Polk. Polk was the guy, not unlike what you mentioned earlier, Headley. He's the guy who kind of, I know Rome Odunze is the alpha. I know, but I like this number 2 guy, bro. I think he's pretty damn good. And of course, McMillan's a very good player in his own right. So, but Polk kind of jumped out to me that I thought they had every kind of flavor of receiver there in Washington. So it was a lot of fun watching him. And I think he certainly is deserving of a top 10 billing here among the receivers in the 2024 NFL draft. We continue on with Drew and Headley's wide receiver rank as we move on to receiver number 8. And Drew, we're going to start it off with you again. Keon Coleman comes in at 8 for you.
Bro, you sure you don't want to talk about Keon Coleman, bro?
Who?
You. I know you got a lot to say about Keon Coleman, bro.
I'm good, bro. I don't. I've said plenty, and I'm sure there'll be other opportunities to speak on him. So I'm gonna let you guys have it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Keon Coleman obviously is my number 8 receiver, and Buddy came on the scene. He burst on the scene coming from Michigan State, transferring over to Florida State, man. And he lit up LSU like a Christmas tree. I think his first couple of games, he was lighting everybody up. Every week it was 2 or 3 plays of big catches down the field, or just getting him the football on a slant, on a dig, and he was able to take it to the house or get big yardage. He's big, strong. He's physical. I think he has a little bit more work to do in terms of his route running. I think we had spoke about this previously in a previous podcast in terms of him being young and kind of still coming into his own as a receiver. He was coming from a football team with the Spartans, Michigan State Spartans, where quarterback play was, not good.
You weren't feeling Peyton Thorne? You weren't feeling him? You weren't feeling him?
Nah, absolutely not, man. And to be honest with you, I remember Coleman from Michigan State, but I don't remember Coleman from Michigan State. Right,
Jaden Reed. So
it was Jaden Reed. It was Jaden Reed for me.
It was Jaden Reed. You're right. But him over here at Florida State, man. I mean, you kind of saw what he can be at his true potential, right? But we got some concerns, Keon Coleman. With your size, you gotta catch them contested balls, brother, right? I know Juice said he was over there in jail at Boston College, man, and we know we got Elijah Jones who was over there, was working with him a little bit, and I think they schemed it up well over there at Boston College, right? It wasn't just Elijah Jones by himself doing it all by himself, but it was schemed up well, and the thing that kind of keeps him outside of that top 5 for me is even though it's being schemed up, you got to figure out a way to kind of break out of jail, man. You know what I'm saying? This ain't Monopoly. You don't get the get out of jail free card. You got to work for it. You feel me? So you just don't get to land on the community chest and get it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of those things where he's got to work on that, man. Again, with that size, with that speed, every one of these receivers are a little bit different in terms of their ability to get open and separate. And again, I said it before, and we said it again. He's still working on being that receiver. So I think you might want to give him a little bit of grace. So that's why he's my number 8 receiver, man.
Yeah, I'll rewatch that Elijah Jones game. He didn't get targeted in the offense. They didn't really go his way. I think they went his way like 3 times in that game. I just think
Jail, bro.
I think it's the
Jail.
offense. Florida State, we like to run the football, and we didn't force it to them, man. So
All right, hold on.
I see you coming to bat for your guy. I see you
Yeah,
coming to bat
bro.
for your guy,
Come on.
bro. I knew this was gonna happen.
I'll rewatch the game.
I knew this was gonna happen. When Headley said the last time we were on, we were talking about Keon Coleman. I was talking about Elijah Jones, and I mentioned that he put Keon Coleman in jail. I knew Headley was gonna go and check the tape. He said it. I knew this was gonna come up, and it made me think of something that happened ages ago. So I'm gonna stop the show for just a second, derail it for just a second. I remember there was a big like primetime matchup between I think T.O. was in Philly, maybe he was in Dallas. I don't remember, but they were playing the Falcons. Headley's our resident Falcon fan. Of course, T.O. and D'Angelo Hall were matching up, right? They were matching up. That was Headley's guy, D'Angelo Hall. You feel me? He thinks he's prime, right? So T.O. has like 5 for 80, 6 for 90, no TDs. I believe the Falcons win. Headley, you told me that Hall locked him up, bro.
Yeah, as a DB, that's a win.
As a DB, that's a win.
Elijah Jones, I got the win. I won that matchup.
He won. He won the matchup,
but
bro.
As a Keon Coleman on his side, I didn't get targeted. It's 2 sides to a story. It's always what they say, 3 sides to a story. His side, my side, and somewhere in the middle, it's 3 sides to the story. So Keon Coleman's side was I didn't get targeted. I wasn't part of the game plan. We ran the football. We won the game. And Elijah Jones' side is I locked them up. So I can see both sides, but I'm a corner myself. So now if I'm Elijah Jones, I locked up Keon Coleman in that game.
Let's get into Roman Wilson. Let's talk Roman Wilson.
Oh yeah, Roman Wilson. He was in that run game offense. We talked about with Keon Coleman. This guy was in more of a run-based offense at Michigan. Didn't really get to see him too much, except on those third downs. JJ McCarthy third downs, that was his guy. But then he went to the Senior Bowl. When he went to the Senior Bowl and displayed his talent to separate, the speed to play inside, outside, and he was the best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl that week. You had to go back to the tape and say, okay, Michigan wasn't using him that much. But when they did use him, he created a lot of mismatches against safeties, against linebackers. I think he's a plug-and-play guy that could come in and get open. Like I said earlier, man, it's 3 guys: Ricky Pearsall, Roman Wilson, and Ladd McConkey. You throw them into the slot, they're going to get open. He seems to always be open. Even when he doesn't get the football, Roman Wilson was open. He's a hands catcher. I like his hands, very strong hands. And not only he's a hands catcher, he catches it on the move, which creates additional yardage. You can catch the football and get tackled, but if you catch the football on the move, gain those additional yards after the catch, you could really move the chains. And he has great feet to stop on a dime, or he could run by you vertically. You kind of want him to get him in motion and bunch off coverage because, another guy where press could kind of hold him up. I see it was Max Melton, a game against Max Melton. Melton put his hands on him, kind of knocked him off his route, couldn't get open. So you just got to be with an offensive mind that could create that separation for you because as a route runner, he's very smart, can sit in zone or very fast to beat you horizontally or vertically. So, Roman Wilson has a lot to like. I think he's going to be a lot better in the NFL than he was in college. Hopefully he gets on a passing offense. But if he's on a running offense again, he's used to it, and he can help you in the run blocking game as well. He's a willing blocker, man. He's used to that. But I just want to see him unleashed at the next level, man, because I think he could put up big numbers.
So big disparity between you and Drew Headley here in terms of Roman Wilson. You have him at 8. Drew had him at 13. Well, I mean, obviously you discussed what you like about him, but the concerns that Drew articulated, the fact that wasn't necessarily heavily used in the offense. You mentioned still has some work to do in terms of beating press coverage. What would you say to Drew to convince him to move Roman Wilson up his rankings?
Oh, it's easy. It's 2 words. Ready? Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall, bro. He's giving Ricky Pearsall the benefit of the doubt because he played with a bad quarterback. But Roman Wilson, that didn't really see the ball, didn't see much targets. They didn't really have to pass the game. It was a game McCarthy threw 8 times. I think it was against Penn State. Like, come on, man. If you're gonna give Ricky Pearsall that benefit of the doubt, give it to Roman Wilson also because he played in a run-heavy offense.
Drew, you want to rebut that? Ain't nothing you can say, can you? There's really nothing you can say.
It's a good and it's a strong argument. It's probably where I would have went. You know, if the roles were reversed.
I like how you
not gonna
compliment
lie
yourself
to
on
you.
that.
Not gonna lie to you. But I did have something. I forgot it, man. Let me think about it. It'll come
It
back.
happens.
To me.
It
It'll come
happens.
back.
All right. Let's move on to receiver number 7 here in our wide receiver rankings. Good evening, Dana. Glad to have you join us this evening. Tua, what's going on, man? All right. For receiver 7 here, Headley, you have Keon Coleman. So not a big discrepancy there between you and Drew.
Mhm.
I would imagine you have some of the same concerns. And Drew, you have Adonai Mitchell, who I know Headley is certainly higher on. So I'll start with you,
Disrespect.
Headley. Let's finish the conversation around Keon Coleman.
Keon. You know, a lot is mentioned about the ball skills, but I think he has top level ball skills, catching at the highest point. You see those incredible catches week in and week out. You just got to be more consistent. But I say it's just like Roman Wilson. It's the offense. You know, he wasn't a guy that was targeted heavily in the offense. They like to rely on running the football. But you know, I like him a lot, man. He came from Michigan State, like you said. That first game against LSU, that 3 TD game, he showed a little bit of everything. He showed the run after catch ability. He showed the big boy, you know, high point in the football and traffic ability. And, you know, he showed how versatile he is as a wide receiver. So, you know, Keon Coleman, I would admit, you know, the route running, he's not the fastest. He ran a 4.6 at the combine. But when he did that gauntlet drill, he was one of the fastest through it.
He's
So, you
flying.
know, he's very confident in catching the football, you know, with his hands. He's a hands catcher as well. What else I had on him, man? Run after catchability. He could help in the return game as well. He's a returner. Um, but what I wanted to mention about Keon Coleman was he does have that boomer bust thing about him. I think it's 3 guys that has that boomer bust thing about him. Leggett is one of those guys. Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas Jr., who we're going to speak about later, where I think that the ceiling is immense, but it could go wrong if they end up in the wrong situation where, you know, because it's route running with those guys, running the route tree and being more crisp on your route running. So that's the bust nature of them. But the high flying ability of Keon Coleman, the speed of Brian Thomas Jr. and Xavier Leggett. So, you know, these guys I think are boomer bust guys, but I'm betting, like you said, you want to bet on Xavier Leggett. That's the guy you're betting on. I'm going to bet on Keon Coleman from Florida State.
I respect it. I think where I come out on it, and again, I'm not going to belabor the point. I just want to reemphasize something that I've discussed throughout the pre-draft process, throughout this particular draft cycle, is that if you value him as a high-end receiver too, I think you have something here, right? I think he has the ability to be such a high-end receiver too that the discussions towards the end of the first round, top half of the second round actually make sense to me, right? Where you already have an established alpha in that room, but you need some more teeth. You need to add some more punch to your passing attack. Bring in Keon Coleman. One of our favorite landing spots throughout our early mock drafts was Keon Coleman to Cincinnati, right? You have Jamar Chase. We're expecting T. Higgins to move on. Obviously, Tyler Boyd won't be back. Higgins got tagged, but I don't know if they're going to get anything done long term there. Probably not, right? So you bring in Keon Coleman to complement Jamar Chase. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And now you're talking about, not unlike what you talked about with T. Higgins, that we're talking about potentially the best number 2 in the league when it's all said and done. He still has some development to do. He's a very young player, basketball background. So polish is necessary, but I think your expectations have to be aligned here. The hyperbole during the season in terms of him being the best receiver or the second best receiver in the league, it was too much. It was too much for my sensibilities. You understand what I'm saying? So if you value him appropriately, I think you're talking about a very high-end receiver too. Drew, Adonai Mitchell, you have him at receiver 7. I thought, you know, based on how he played this season, he forced his way into the conversation of the first round among the top 5 receivers. Why is he outside of your top 5? What is it that you like about it?
Well, Adonai Mitchell, I think he's a smooth operator when you talk about his route running ability. I think that in the red zone, he might be, let me think through it. He's probably top 3 in terms of receivers in this draft, in terms of the red zone, in terms of his being able to either separate or just go up and get the football. He uses his size well. I think his home is either that backside receiver or in the slot. I think he's a smart football player. You know, a question or two that I got for him. And also in terms of his speed, I didn't realize how fast he was until he ran at the combine. Then I kind of went back to the tape and I said, oh, okay, I've been looking at Xavier Worthy a little too much, and you can't kind of put those two in the same bucket in terms of speed, right? That's apples to oranges, maybe still a fruit, right? So it's apples to oranges in terms of the speed. So, but I think he has strong hands again, coming from just crazy how much talent Georgia got, and they just didn't use all the talent, bro. It's crazy, bro. Crazy.
Hey man, back to back championships, man. Listen.
Bro, and they had Pickens, Mitchell, Burton,
Brock Bowers, bro. Brock Bowers, bro.
I mean,
Brock Bowers, bro.
And the running backs.
Yeah.
So so I mean, I get it, and they won it without, you know, it was kind of an inside out in terms of that offense versus outside in, which is what most offenses are built by. So I get it. You get your championships. Ain't no complaints over here. Just don't go to Georgia if you're a receiver. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, man. But a concern that I got with Adonai Mitchell, bro. I need you to block, player. I need you to. That's you know, that's an easy box to check. You know, I'm not sitting in front of him in an interview room having that conversation like, yo, what's going on this play or that play in terms of being able to block and being, you know, willing at least a willing blocker. You know, so but yeah, man. That's part of the reason why he fell out of my top 5 plus. He's not in the top 5 plus. The receivers in front of him, man. I just, you know, they better, bro.
I respect it. I mean, I don't know if I respect it. I understand your reasoning.
Nah, you gonna respect
it. I can digest your reasoning. I will say this, and it kind of pertains to the issue you have in terms of him in the running game, right? And being engaged is that he can get bored. You understand what I'm saying? Because the ball's not necessarily coming his way. You can see him get a little bored. But of course, in that same breath, he's consistently creating separation. The movement skills are crazy. You understand what I mean? So whether there's a question of dog or not, I'm not certain that there is truly a question there. I think he just, it's not laziness necessarily. I'm not talking about the running aspect of it. I'm talking about him finishing his routes and so on and so forth. I think he just got bored at times. You know what I mean? And he needs to lock in from that perspective. But really, really impressive talent here from Adonai Mitchell. We move on to receiver 6, and you guys synced up once again. So you were in lockstep at receiver 12 with Troy Franklin. Receiver 6 come in as Ladd McConkey, and this is Headley's guy. This is Headley's guy.
I'm happy you're coming around, Drew. I respect it, man. I like that.
let's discuss Ladd McConkey. Why you have him as receiver 6 here, Headley?
Like, to be honest, I didn't really look at Ladd McConkey as a top 10 guy coming into the year. You know, I saw what he did at Georgia with Brock Bowers. I'm like, okay, you know, he's a college guy. Until I went to the tape. I went to the tape for the 2023 season, and he just has that sneaky twitch to create separation. He's a very deliberate route runner. He sets up defenders really well. You know, one thing I'm big on with wide receivers is that route pace. You know, that's why I love Josh Downs last year. And, you know, Ladd McConkey is a guy just like that, where he runs his route with pace. He's not always bursting off the line. He's actually trying to see what safeties are doing, what linebackers are doing, and then I'm going to get open. You know, it's just that's a quarterback's best friend, especially on third downs. He has a very sticky hands. Great run after the catch ability. He's a 4-3 guy. Like you said, I think in the last live is didn't realize that he was a 4-3 guy until he opens up and, you know, he goes deep, runs the ball into the end zone. It's like, oh, I didn't know he had that speed because of how deliberate his route running is. But once he opens up and he gets in the open field, man, you can see that 4-3 speed on film. What else I say? I think he has inside-outside versatility as well. Some people might pigeonhole him as a slot guy, but I like what he did at the Senior Bowl. Him and Roman Wilson, and even Ricky Pearsall from Florida, where, you know, they were one of the 3 best receivers at the Senior Bowl. I got it, Roman Wilson and then probably Ladd McConkey, but, you know, he was separating from guys that, you know, Quinyon Mitchell, any guy that was across from him. You know, he did a really good job of separating, and you just got to keep him clean. I think keeping him away from press will be very important, because I saw reps against Terry and Arnold, and he kind of had him in jail for a couple of reps there because just that physicality, that press coverage. So I think you got to kind of have him in bunch formations, put him in motion, and he eats really well against zone coverage and against safeties and linebackers. That's a mismatch waiting to happen. So, you know, Ladd McConkey comes in at wide receiver 6 for me.
You know, I think you mentioned that you didn't necessarily get the impression that he was as fast as he timed at the combine because of how deliberate he is with his routes, right? The route pacing. And I thought, you can make the same comment, and Drew alluded to it with Adonai Mitchell. You didn't realize how fast he was unless you're looking for his speed because of the way he sets up defenders. You understand what I'm saying? So there are guys who obviously have the track speed, but their effectiveness is not predicated on that. And I think that bodes very well for both Mitchell and McConkey. What about you, Drew? What are your thoughts on Lab McConkey?
Yeah, man. Separation, man. And he does it in a myriad of ways. And he does it, repeatedly over and over and over. If it wasn't Brock Bowers, it was Ladd, right? And like Headley said, coming into the season, I'm like, Ladd? I'm like, okay, I mean, and we talk about the Georgia receivers in terms of, there's not really a role for them, right? Guy might catch a touchdown or two, a couple passes, might have a big game here or there, but this is the guy that has probably been the best receiver for Georgia in the past 5 years, I could say, right off the top of my head, right? Just the consistency in it. But again, it's the inside out game that they work, and he's dominant in the slot. And because of his ability to run routes, as Headley said, he can play the outside. I think he's a guy you're going to have to mix it up. But I also think he's crafty, too, in terms of his release. So, okay, you might put me in jail for 3-4 snaps like Terran Arnold did. But I'm going to figure out a way to create this separation between me and you. I'm going to work you. You're going to work me, but I'm going to work you. You're going to get yours. I'm going to get mine, right? But, yeah, man, you can't. This is one of those guys, like, you want to deny him. You want to kind of, because I was like, nah, y'all kept talking, nah. I was like, nah, man, nah, he ain't, no, bro. But when you watch the tape, I would be doing a disservice, and I'd be lying, bro, right? Ready to go outside and get struck by lightning if I didn't say this guy deserved to be in the top 15. And in this case, he's number 6. The one thing I wish he had more of, and it's not his fault, I wish he had a little bit more size, because I think, take his game to the next level. But teams are going to see him how they see him. I think let me think about it for a second. Is he top 3 slot in this draft?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll leave it there.
He might be number 1.
He might be.
It depends on where you got Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is more than a slot, but yeah, he might be number 1.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I can appreciate that professional integrity there, right? Drew, you wanted to deny it, but you came aboard, and I'm in the same boat. Right? I didn't obviously understood how he was being used, but when you take a step back and you unpack it and you realize the skills that are transferable to the next level, you see a very complete receiver here, a very complete receiver here with much better athleticism than you generally see on tape, because he wins in a different manner. And I think that actually bodes in his favor. Again, you can be a speed merchant, but if you're able to set defenders up with pace and make those corrections real time in the game when you're struggling with a defensive back, i.e. Terrian Arnold, I think the sky's the limit, assuming he lands in a favorable spot. So that's receiver number 6 here in Headley and Drew's 2024 NFL draft rankings for the wide receivers. That's going to take us in the top 5 here. What's going on, Omar? Shout out Omar. What's going on? That's going to take us into the top 5 here. And at number 5, Headley, you have Brian Thomas. Drew has the Gator, Ricky Pearsall, and that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with Pearsall here at 5. I believe, Headley, you had him at 10, if I'm not mistaken. So, significant difference. I think that's a significant difference, although you have 5 through 12 kind of in the same boat-ish. Just from a chronological standpoint, significant difference. Drew, let's talk about Pearsall. You can wax about Pearsall now. You have the floor.
Get the disclaimer first, bro. I think, people that's been here a while with us, man, in the comments, they know, where Drew lies. He bleeds. What is that? Is that orange and blue? The Gators?
What is that, bro? Come on, bro.
What is it? Orange and blue?
Yeah, it's orange and blue. What are we doing? Secondary, primary colors, bro. Come on,
team,
bro.
Man. That's his team right there, bro.
Out here, man. Come on. No, but it's okay. So I'm gonna put this disclaimer. There's a little bias, and I'm usually not biased for the most part with
what?
Gator.
Start the tape, bro.
What?
With the Gators?
Yeah, for the most part, I said. for the most part.
Okay.
Well, I had to bring us back in. I had to bring us back in.
No, so what player? Give me 3 players. Give me 3 players.
It's the Bucks. He is more biased with the Bucks. He is more biased.
Tabor, bro.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that. But we know the issue with Tease though, bro.
Yeah.
4-7, bro. You can't. I mean, goddamn, bro. You can't. What you gonna do with 4-7, bro? Like once he did that, it was a wrap. Wrap him up. Put a bow on him. Done. Right? Who else?
Yeah.
I'll name one. I'll name one.
You got one?
This was a big one, bro. It was a big discussion, bro. Vernon Hargreaves and I think it was Jalen Ramsey same year. Yeah, that's a bad one, bro. That was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that was at the beginning of our scouting journey, though, too. So
it was early.
Yeah.
What you saying, Juice?
What about CJ Henderson? Were we locked up on CJ Henderson?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think you were. I think you were higher on Hargreaves. Yeah, I think you were higher on Hargreaves.
Yeah, I was higher on Hargreaves.
That was definitely more egregious. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can come up with one more. Go ahead, Drew.
Okay. Good luck. But yeah, Ricky Pearsall. Is it Pearsall? Don't matter. Guy's a baller. He's got strong hands. I think Juk had said it. I think Juice had said it earlier. In terms of the receivers, when you talk about Ladd, Ricky Pearsall, and Roman Wilson, you're thinking kind of the same thing. I was thinking those guys are kind of in the same mold, in the same bucket. But for me, for Ricky Pearsall, man, unlike Roman Wilson, there was a lot of meat left on the bone that Headley had spoke about in terms of the quarterback play. The dude was open all the time. And my thought process was, unlike Roman Wilson, right? He was open, right? Can we necessarily say that about Roman Wilson? We don't know because they ran the football, right? And a lot of Roman Wilson's damage, right? And I know I'm comparing up 2 players against each other, but I got to win this argument, right? Coming back with it, see, told you, full circle. Is a lot of his damage was either like a broken play or they just weren't able to get to JJ McCarthy, and he's extended the play. And, Roman Wilson was on the move, which is one of his best attributes in terms of receiver, working his away from whoever was covering him or to the open space to catch the football. Ricky Pearsall, man, he's got the quick twitch. He's got the route running ability. That man got the release, nice, good feet. You saw it at the Senior Bowl, second best receiver, only to Roman Wilson there. And I really wish, like Jermaine Burton, they left a lot of meat on the bone, man, that I think whoever gets this guy is going to, they're going to wonder why he went where he went, man. That's all I'm going to say, because he's not going to go as high as he should. And I understand it because meat was left on the bone, but people going to be surprised, man. And I think this is going to be a big time fantasy alert. Did you see that catch he made versus Charlotte, bro? Did you see it? You ever seen a catch like that, bro?
Yeah, Keon Coleman.
Nah, bro, come on. You see what
I saw it.
How much bigger is Keon Coleman than Ricky Pearsall, man?
All right, good point. You got that. Yeah.
Let's discuss Brian Thomas.
Yeah, man. Brian Thomas, this guy, man, size, speed combo. I think NFL teams are going to covet that. He's going to be a first-round guy. Deep play threat in the LSU offense. Neighbors did everything, short, intermediate, and deep. But Brian Thomas, man, he was a deep threat for these guys. Top-notch tracking ability. Jaden Daniels threw it up there, and Brian Thomas Jr. came down with the catch. He wins those 50-50 balls. I think he's a great red zone threat. Those slot fades. He executed those slot fades really well for LSU. And looseness and burst after the catch. He's always looking for yards after the catch because, Drew mentioned it before in a previous live where the route running, the routes that he was asked to run, it was a lot of go routes, hitches, comeback routes. It wasn't a real nuanced route tree. And, you see it on tape, man. He's going to catch something short and have that looseness and burst after the catch, or he's going to blow past you and stack you. And sometimes he's wide open. I don't understand why they leave him wide open sometimes, but, he has that ability to do both on your offense. And he's very twitchy. For a 6'4" guy, He moves really well in space. He's very creative as a runner after the catch. The things I didn't like about him, and why I say that, he's more. I don't want to say boomer bust, but he has a very high variance or low variance because he's a body catcher. He doesn't really have those strong hands to pluck the football out the air. Like I said, the route running with hitches and goals didn't have that route tree. And but other than that, man, that size speed at that 4.3 and the big play, all the touchdowns he had. What, he had like 15 touchdowns this last season. Is just, man, he just made big plays after big plays after big plays. And I can see why people are in love with him. There's some concerns about him, man. And that's why I had him at wide receiver 4 and I brought him down to wide receiver 5 because I just think the next guy is just a way better route runner than him, which is Adonai Mitchell. I'm gonna give it away, but yeah, man, he has a lot of things that teams will love, man. He's gonna be a first round guy.
Let's talk about Adonai Mitchell.
Oh yeah, we back there. This is the guy right here, bro. We call a big 3. Everyone knows the big 3 now. We're not talking about Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole. We're not talking about Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. We're talking about Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Marvin Harrison Jr. Those are the big 3 guys, and I don't even care what order you have them in right now. If you say Neighbors is 1, I'm okay. If you say Rome is 1, I'm okay. If you say Marvin Harrison is 1, I'm okay. But after those 3 guys, I think it's a
Rondo.
tear break, and I think it's Adonai Mitchell. You
Say
Rondo? Rondo's the 4. Rondo's Adonai Mitchell. There you go, bro.
There you go. There you go.
Rondo's Adonai Mitchell because I think it's a tear break, then him, and then another tear break because, man, watching his tape, man, it's just the route running at his size, man. The subtle movements in his ability to track the ball deep down the field, the ball skills, to stat guys. He came from Georgia, which, like you said earlier, they didn't really use him that much in Georgia. I thought he had a pretty good freshman year, but kind of got forgotten about, and then he transferred to Texas. And he had 6'4", 190, 4.3 speed. And he just understands how to get open in those scramble drills. Also, there's some comps with CeeDee Lamb, and I see the CeeDee Lamb in his game with the route running. I think CeeDee Lamb is better after the catch than Adonai Mitchell, but I see some similarities with him. Like I said, he tracks the ball. I think he's a very underrated route runner, easy mover. He makes difficult things really easy at times. Especially in the red zone. In the red zone, to go up and get the football, you see that time after time. What else I have on him? He just runs hard with the ball in his hands. He's not really going to make guys miss, but he runs hard once he gets the ball. And just the route running, man. I love his route running to set up guys, the slant move. I call him sweet feet, man. Really good feet. And that's kind of why I have him over Brian Thomas. I know Drew had Brian Thomas here at wide receiver 4, but the route running, man, you saw it against Kool-Aid McKinstry in the Alabama game where he left him in the dust on that slant around the goal line. He left him in the dust. Also, he did a slot fade against Kool-Aid. He beat Jabari Muhammad. He played against elite corners this season, and he beat all of them, Kool-Aid and Jabari Muhammad. So, man, I like Adonai a lot, man. He's my wide receiver 4.
All right, strong support of Adonai here in the top 4. Brian Thomas, Drew, he's your 4th ranked receiver.
Yeah, man. Headley said it earlier. Big time production, big time plays. Every time the ball's coming to number 11, it's 15 plus yards down the field with him making a play on the football. There's usually a lot of separation, and unlike the stuff where you saw with Tennessee with Cedric Tillman and who was the other
Hyatt.
Cedric Tillman and
Hyatt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unlike that where it was kind of schemed up.
Yeah.
I thought Brian Thomas did a little bit more route running, a little bit more what's the word?
Not route running, but he was actually beating the defender.
Yeah. And it was consistent, man, over and over and over to the point where like, yo, y'all gonna put a safety over the top, but we just gonna watch him just run by people and set folks up for the okey doke and then create this huge separation. I think he works well in the scramble drill when it comes down to it. But he's not a guy that's running horizontally across the field. He's a guy heading down the football field. He did have limitations in terms of the routes that he did run, but he ran those routes efficiently. And when you talk about, Headley was talking about the big 3, it's about the production and it's about the effect that you have on the defense. And these top four for me
Mm.
consistently affected the defense, right? In terms of now, I will say this gently, right? With the LSU specifically, Jaden Daniels was his own. He affected defense in his own way, so that may be a part of it, right? Not to take away from Neighbors, not to take away from Brian Thomas, but still, these guys were extremely productive and did a lot of damage, man. And it was hard to you really couldn't stop these guys from week to week, any of them. So that's kind of why he's in my top 10. And Headley did speak on in terms of his ability to kind of catch the football with his body versus his hands. So that's something he's going to have to work through. And then I talked about in a previous live in terms of that perceived physicality, or that perceived your hands, you're the cornerback and defender's hands around his hands in terms of him dropping some passes. So that may be some things he has to work through. But big time players make big time plays in big time games, bro. And he did that consistently.
All right. That's Adonai Mitchell and Brian Thomas. We move into the big three here. All right. And you guys have Malik Neighbors coming in as receiver 3. And I certainly understand it. I disagree, but I understand it, right? Okay. This is my guy. You understand what I'm saying? I think Malik Neighbors has the highest ceiling of any receiver in this class. And I'm not even going to suggest that you guys don't necessarily agree with me. But I can certainly understand why you would rank him as a receiver 3, because I don't think his floor is quite as high as Rome and Marvin Harrison Jr. So understandable, but you're still too low on him. Drew, your thoughts on Malik Neighbors?
So I'm just going to read you off some numbers real quick. Okay. And I mentioned it, not the numbers, but this particular player before. I think it was two lives ago. This player stands at 5'11", 198. He ran a 4.43, had a vertical jump of 38.5, a broad jump of 10.2, and he bench press 225 7 times. Okay. Neighbors bench press 225 15 times, ran a 4.35 with a 42-inch vertical and 10.9 broad jump.
Explosion.
I know. You know what I'm talking about? He's another LSU receiver.
Odell?
Yeah, that's Odell. Yep.
So in terms of just looking at the Sparky, looking at the numbers, Neighbors is actually, and this is how some people scout. This is how some people scout. Just pure numbers, because it's easy, right? He looks like the better prospect, right? And I don't know that I'd agree with that. But if you're telling me that you're getting Odell Beckham Jr. without the health concerns, not that Odell was coming into the year with the
he's the better prospect.
He's the better prospect.
Odell, as high as he was drafted, right? Odell was what, the 12th or the 13th pick, 11th pick, something like that.
Yeah.
We weren't certain on Odell. At least we weren't, right? We there was a lot of love for Jarvis Landry, who went in the second round, right? He looked like the more polished receiver. Odell was just obviously a superior athlete. And when he hit the ground running. But if you were to ask me, going back to then, which again, even kind of predates this channel, right? I had a higher grade on Malik Neighbors than Odell, right? Again, I'm not saying that Malik Neighbors will come out of the gate to the degree of Odell. I wouldn't put it past him, but I wouldn't. That was special. You understand what I'm saying? That Odell doing that surprised me more than if Malik Neighbors does.
I agree. But let me ask you this though, because you've seen Odell, like because sometimes you coming from the same school, kind of the similar in a lot of different ways, or in a lot of ways. Because you saw Odell, is that part of the reason why you might feel like Malik might not surprise you?
No,
or it's because you paying attention a little bit more. You paying attention a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking 10 years now. We're talking legit 10 years now, right? And over time, obviously, we've refined our process and have a better understanding of what we're actually looking at. You understand what I'm saying? And perhaps I would have been higher on Odell if knowing what I know now, right? Perhaps I would have been, but all things being equal here in a vacuum, I actually had a higher grade on Neighbors coming out. So interesting comp though, right? In terms of their size and ultimately their athletic testing.
Yeah, and it's crazy with what LSU has produced at the wide receiver position with guys playing together. You know, we talk about Odell and Landry played together. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase played together. And now we have Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. in the same class, both top 5 wide receivers in this class, man. And it's just so much talent coming out of there. And he became Jaden Daniels' guy last season. Everyone was talking about Keyshawn Butte and what he's going to do. Was he wearing that number 7? He was wearing that number 7, right, for LSU.
Yeah, he was.
And Malik Neighbors became the guy. He became the guy so much. I think we were one of the first people to say, like, is he wide receiver 2 in this class? Like everyone had
everybody jumped on it. Everybody
Yeah.
jumped on it in 2023. We were already on it in 2022.
In 2022, we were saying, is he wide receiver 2 in this class? I know we ultimately got him at wide receiver 3, but like I said earlier, if he's wide receiver 2 or 1 or 3 on your list, I can't argue it because, you know, I agree with you, Juice. He has probably the highest upside over Roma Dunze, over Marvin Harrison Jr. He could play all 3 wide receiver positions. You're talking about the X, the Z, the slot. He could do it all 3. He could win on all 3 levels of the field, short, intermediate, or deep. And I think what's really underrated about Neighbors is his route running ability. Like, you know, some people say he's not one of the best route runners in his class. I see a great route runner because, you know, he runs hard, but it operates at the top of the route. You know, he's very physical. We talking about a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, where, you know, what he does at the top of his routes, just a little physical. He'll touch you a little bit, get his little separation where, you know, it's not pass interference, but he gets a little separation. And Malik Neighbors does the same thing, and he comes back to the football. He's like a pit bull. He attacks the football in the air. So you see that, man. I like his route running. I think he's one of the top 5 route runners in this class. And then what he does with the ball in his hands, he's electric. You know, some people say DJ Moore with the ball in his hands. I think he gives you the same. He does it a little differently, but like Deebo Samuels, when Deebo touches the football, everybody needs to watch out, man. Deebo does it with more physicality. I think Neighbors does it with more speed, but I think those are just electric guys with the ball in their hands. Like I said, he attacks the football, the late separation, big time yak guy. You put a nickel DB on him or a safety, he's toasting them. He's toasting them every time, man. That's a mismatch. And I don't think he is as nice as Rome Odunze or Marvin Harrison in terms of ball skills, how they contort their body. And he doesn't have the size as them, but, you know, he does well also, you know, with contested catches as well. So, you know, he has a lot to like, man. And we always talk about, would you rather your receiver before the catch or after the catch? I guess Roma Dunze, especially Marvin Harrison Jr., they do a little bit more before the catch with their route running. But after the catch, man, it's Malik Neighbors. He's number 1 in the class after the catch. I think, like you said, like he could put up big numbers. He could put up big numbers year 1 in the NFL.
Let me say this in terms of why he's receiver 3 and not receiver 2 or 1, because maybe somebody's asking that question or thinking about it. So I'm always looking to what's the separator for me in terms of you know, separating these guys, unless somebody's just so far above everyone else in terms of all the categories that you're checking all the boxes, right? You know, when you watch him going against State, and you watch him going against Missouri, and I think it was Rakestraw before he got injured. Was it Rakestraw? Yeah, before he got injured, right? There, you know, Green was doing it kind of with physicality from the start to the finish, right? And Rakestraw was kind of doing it not at the start, but when ball was incoming or if there was any created separation, kind of got a little touchy, got a little physical. So I think there's a little bit of I'm not gonna say a chink in the armor, but there's a little bit of okay, I think we know how to slow him down. We know how to not gonna say take him away, but you know, make him less of you know, make him let's make him Alik Neighbors, right? Not Malik, Alik Neighbors. You know what I'm saying? Just take a little bit away from him. Not him. You know, maybe he's wearing number 6 and not number 8. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just taking a little. Maybe it's not a yellow helmet. Like we're taking it a little bit away from to slow him down, to contain him a little bit, right? Because when Rakestraw went out, Malik Neighbors showed up. It wasn't a leak. it was Malik showed up, right? So that's kind of where I sit, there. But everything else Headley said in terms of who he is, that's who he is, bro.
Those two games that you point out is the reason why I think his floor is a little bit lower than Odunze and Harrison Jr. And I think there's some additional development that needs to take place here. You understand what I'm saying? Brian Kelly obviously, put guys in a pretty good position here to be successful. But as far as developing players, I'm not certain that he's doing that on a consistent basis. You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, Neighbors is 20, bro. He's 20 years old, right? And we're already kind of comparing him, have some lofty expectations of him. I just think as he gets into his man body, that's why I'm leaning towards that ceiling, man. That's and I think that's part of the reason why Renardo Green and his physicality was able to give him a challenge, right? I think why Rakestraw, in terms of his technical prowess, was able to give him a challenge. I think he's just a young football player still, but the talent is immense. It's absolutely immense. Let's move on to receiver 2, and I don't think there's any big surprise here. Rome Odunze is your receiver 2, consensus receiver 2 among Headley and Drew here. And Drew, your thoughts on Odunze?
Yeah, man. The first thing that I noticed about Odunze is you can't miss him, bro. I know we talked about Pope, number 2, just showing up consistently, but this dude kept showing up consistently, and it didn't matter what team they were playing. You knew number 1 was going to get his, and he got it week in, week out, and it's the route running for me. You know what I'm saying? It's the stability to go up and get the football, whether he's on the boundary, about to fall out of bounds. You know what I'm saying? And we know, obviously, Michael Penix is a guy who's putting the ball on the spot out there on the boundary. But and his ability to he can do the physical thing in terms of the route, but it's the subtleness, right? It's the craftiness that he has in his routes, and all those guys in terms of the Washington receivers can run routes. I know we talk about Ohio State as receiver U. I think Washington, this year was sneaky with their receivers in terms of those guys being able to run routes and create separation, right? The one concern I think I have with Odunze, and it's not a big concern, right? But if you're going to take him away, I don't think it's in man coverage that you take him away. I think it's actually in zone coverage that you want to take him away. Is how I would game plan it. But again, he's a guy here and there. He's going to get his, man. That's just kind of the player he is. I think he is an outside receiver. I think he can play some slot if you want to get cute, want to mix some things up. But and when we talk about these receivers, I talked about it in terms of the top 4. It's production, but it's also about consistency. And he was consistent week to week. He was the guy. He's the alpha. I think he's probably the top alpha. I know, we got another guy coming up, but I think he's the top alpha in terms of this receiver class for me.
Yeah, man. You said a lot right there, man. I agree with everything. I agree with everything you said right there because, you brought up a good point that I never thought about, how to take him away. It's probably zone, because in man-to-man coverage, he might look like he's covered, but he's not. He's not covered in that man-to-man coverage, that late separation, that back shoulder game, how he tracks the football. It's all excellent, man. He's a 6'3", 212, 4'4" guy, easy speed, man. It looks effortlessly. He does it effortlessly when he plays. He's always under control, which I really like about his game. And to me, he has a lot of intangibles also, things that doesn't show up in the box score, man. He got better every year at Washington. That work ethic. You saw it at the combine where he just kept on running that 3-cone drill. I was like, what is he doing? He just running the 3-cone drill over and over and over. I'm like, okay, that shows a different determination, man. That's something you can't teach. That's something, I got kids in sports, and that's something I show them. And like, yo, you see that? Like, he's one of the best guys, but he still wants to be perfect out there. And it's just that work ethic that you can't teach. And he's also tough. I think he broke his rib and punctured his lung after the Arizona game. He sat out a week and came back the next week against Oregon. Those are the small things that, that's outside the football field that's so special about Rome Odunze. But on the field, man, he can take the top off the defense. Twitchy wide receiver, size speed combo. He's a great blocker. He got good size. He'll block. He's a willing and able blocker. He excels after the catch. He's a returner. So, he has moves after the catch also. They give him a lot of screens in the passing game as well. He can make defenders miss. I love how he catches the football. He's a hands catcher. And it's just always away from his body. He never really gets the ball into his body as much. He catches the ball away from his body. And last season in 2022, I was like, I want to see him improve those 50-50 balls better. And not only did he improve it, he might be the best in the nation at it after the 2023 tape, man. He just goes up and gets the football. And like I said, those back shoulders, no wasted movements in his game. And also what stands out the most, he's always in the right position. He's always in the right position. And Michael Penix, he gave him the football. Some quarterbacks shy away from a guy because they look covered. But like I said, with Rome Odunze, he might be covered, and Penix threw it up to him. And those 50-50 balls became 80-20. And God, I keep seeing, I don't know if I've seen this comp anywhere else. And I don't even know how it matches up from a size. I think he's a little taller than this guy. But he reminds me a lot of Jamar Chase for the Cincinnati Bengals, just how they play the game, man. So yeah, man, that's high praise for Rome Odunze. And like I said, if he's wide receiver 1 on your board, I can't knock you on that because, man, the brother is smooth, man, real smooth.
All right, that's going to take us to receiver 1 and pole to pole here. Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously didn't get great quarterback play this past season, but he's pretty much as close to can't miss as you can imagine. And as I mentioned earlier, I do believe Malik Neighbors has a higher ceiling, but in terms of floors, I don't think it gets any higher than this. Headley, your thoughts on Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, it's like, I would say this. I'll start off by saying he is wide receiver 1 from last season, but the gap has closed a lot. Coming into the year, it was him and everybody else. But I think Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors has closed that gap. And that's why I'm not mad at whoever is wide receiver 1. But I couldn't dethrone him, man. He's the son of a Hall of Famer. The bloodlines run deep. He locates the football at a high level. I think that's probably one of his best attributes, how he adjusts his body, he tracks the football, makes those tough catches in traffic. The knock on him is the yak. That's where Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, they have him more on the yak ability, yards after the catch. But he has great hands, even through contact. You see a lot of guys, once they get their hands on the football, a defender comes and kind of like gets in their space and they drop the ball. But Marvin Harrison does it, man. He catches those football. I love his feet on his route running to stop on a dime. And a big thing with him also is we talk about Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors. Who were their quarterbacks? These are first round quarterbacks, man. You got Jaden Daniels with Malik Neighbors. You got Michael Penix with Rome Odunze. And Harrison Jr. didn't have that. And he still put up big numbers, won the Biletnikoff Award with that quarterback. I don't even know his name. He transferred out now. I think he's kind of forgotten about right now. But, even though he did win a Biletnikoff, I think he probably should have went the Neighbors or something like that. But, he was the best receiver the last 2 years in college. So I can't be mad at that, man. And like I said, man, the release, the grace, the elegance, he's just so smooth. He's kind of like Rome Odunze, just the smoothness in their game and how they get open. He wins at all 3 levels, short, intermediate, or deep. And just stacking the DBs and tracking ability at 6'3", 210. Man, I just, he's kind of like his dad, man. I think he's a bigger, faster version of Marvin Harrison Sr., man. And that's a Hall of Famer. So yeah, he's a wide receiver 1, man. He should be a top 5 pick in this draft class.
As Dana mentioned here, the polish is evident. It really is evident. And of course, the AJ Green comp has become pretty much in vogue, but that's who came to mind with me as well. Just a more physical brand of football being played by Marvin Harrison Jr. Your thoughts on MHJ here, Drew?
Bro, I don't know if there's anything else to be said, bro. I mean, with everything Headley just said, bro, that's why receiver 1 easily, bro. And to me, I know Headley said, and I agree in terms of the other, 2 guys closing the gap. But for me, it was I was trying to convince myself, is there any way that these other 2 could dethrone him? I could see in terms of Neighbors because of the high ceiling. Excuse me, the high ceiling. Excuse me. And Rome. No, because Rome and Harrison are kind of similar. It's just that Harrison has we're talking about the pedigree and the consistency, man. Even with the subpar quarterback play, because a lot of it was the guy just wouldn't get the football out, right? And had he just gotten it out, man, who knows what could have happened? Or if let's swap teams. Let's swap some teams. Let's say Neighbors plays on Ohio State and Harrison plays for LSU. What does that look like? Is this even a discussion? And my question is it even a discussion, right? So when you try to rank your people, let's make some swaps and think about it that way, right? But the size, the speed, the savviness, the subtleness, like he is when you talk about a complete receiver, the small feet. Oh, that's my thing, bro. The small feet, bro. Like how you that big and you got the small feet. When we say small feet, he operates as if he has small feet because everything is so quick, fast, and in a hurry. But at the same time, I can slow it down, stop on a dime, right? Or I can break you off like a Kit Kat bar. You can tell that is a wide receiver's son, right? On top of that, you're at wide receiver U, where they just continue to produce over and over and over. He is the complete package. If you're looking for a receiver that can do everything, I'd rather him be outside. But again, you want to get cute, want to show the defense a little something different. Throw him inside, big slot, lights, camera, action. But I don't know that there's a flaw in his game. I know Headley said, we can talk about Yak. He's so good at everything else. I don't know that I care about the Yak, bro. And didn't he hit 20-something miles an hour this year? Something like that?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there was some concerns last year in terms of the long speed, but I mean, clearly he has plenty of it on the field, and I'm sure if he ran, he would test just fine as well. I think the Yak is something that he can improve upon. I always use the example of DeAndre Hopkins, right? And that was an area that he struggled. Mike Evans as well. They just weren't necessarily known for what they do after the catch, and they just kind of kept working on it. They when this becomes your profession, you look for things to improve upon. You look to add tools to the toolbox, and I think he certainly can improve there. Well, now, will he get to the level of a Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors? Maybe not, but I think he certainly can improve in that regard. So certainly understanding of Marvin Harrison Jr. as a top receiver. Again, the quarterback play really did hamper him, but of course, when you look at his counting numbers, it's hard to argue with the production, all things considered. So Marvin Harrison Jr. comes in as Headley and Drew's top receiver in these 2024 wide receiver rankings ahead of the 2024 NFL draft. Before we move on to the corners, we're going to switch gears and move to the corners, but I wanted to ask you guys about landing spots for the top three here. So Harrison Jr., Odunze, Malik Neighbors, where are your preferred locations for each of these players?
So where we go or where we want them to go?
Where would you want them to go? Where do you want them to go? Within reason of where you expect them to go. Let's put it that way.
I think a conversation starts at 4 with the Arizona Cardinals. I think getting a receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. to go along with Michael Wilson to help Kyler Murray out. I would love that landing spot for Marvin Harrison Jr. And then after 4, I don't think the Chargers are going wide receiver, even though they need a wide receiver. Jim Harbaugh, he's a guy that wants to run the football. So I don't see it, but it might happen because that would be a tremendous spot from anybody, especially like a Rome Odunze with Justin Herbert. That would be pretty ridiculous. And then the New York Giants, they're in need of a wide receiver, an alpha. Maybe Malik Neighbors over there in New York, where we could get the ball out Daniel Jones' hands quickly and let him create. They need somebody that could create after the catch. So maybe the 4, 5, 6, man. I think those are good landing spots for the wide receivers.
What about you, Drew?
Yeah, I'm a echo that sentiment. I'm a roll with that, bro. I like that.
All right, sounds good. You mentioned the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, the identity that he wants ultimately. It's bare, bro. That receiver room is bare, and of course, I get that he's going to want to find a more of an inline tight end. I wouldn't rule out Brock Bowers there. I'm that high on Brock Bowers, but for me, it'd probably be Malik Neighbors. Even with Quentin Johnson selected last year, that was a different regime. You understand what I'm saying? Hopefully he takes a step, but give me Malik Neighbors. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals. I don't think there should be any debate or discussion there. And then I think it kind of depends on what the next team wants to do. I believe Rome Odunze should be selected in the top 10. Does somebody move up? Do the Bears take them with their second first-round selection? I think they could go to edge and really, finalize their defense. So there's a little bit more volatility there. I think Rome Odunze could go anywhere from 6 to maybe 15, right? But he certainly just in terms of the teams that are picking there. I think Rome Odunze should be picked in the top 10, though. I want to make that very clear. But interesting discussion there in terms of potential landing spots. All right, let's transition to our rankings, or rather Drew and Headley's rankings of the top 20 cornerbacks in the 2024 NFL draft. And we decided on 20 because we believe, despite what some may disagree with, we believe this is an incredibly deep class of cornerbacks. You may not necessarily have a top 5 talent per se, but just in terms of the volume of quality corners in this class, it's pretty staggering. And then, of course, you got guys on the boundary, you got guys who could do it all, you got slot guys, you got the full complement of players. So if your favorite NFL team is in need of a cornerback, certainly this is a good draft class to add one or two. All right, Headley, I want to start with you. Right here at cornerback 20, big Kyrie Jackson, 6'4", all of 6'4".
He's 6'4". I got him at 6'3". Is he 6'4"?
I think he's 6'4". I think he measured at 6'4". I think.
That's an extra inch right there, man. And he came over from Alabama transfer. So, the first thing I thought about when I saw him in that Oregon Ducks uniform was Eli Ricks. Those long corners, perimeter corners, press corner. He liked to put his hands on the wide receivers. Even without those hands on the wide receivers, he has a good ability, the bail technique to turn and run, stay in phase, deep down the sideline. I peg him more as a cover three corner, get him in one of those systems where he can use the sideline as an extra defender. Does a good job of turning his head around, playing the ball in the air. Just the feet. I think his feet could improve. I saw him lose his feet a couple times in press coverage. But he'll come up and tackle. Got those long arms. He could break up passes with those long arms. He's a former wide receiver. Is he a former wide receiver? My bad.
I think so. I think he is.
I wrote that in here.
So. I think so.
Okay. So he got that ball skills, tall, long. Yeah. Check it, man. Tall, long press corner. It can excel in a cover 1 or cover 3 defense. The scheme is going to really matter for Kyrie Jackson because he gets in one of those schemes. He could be a starter for years to come.
All right, Drew, you have Jarvis Brownlee Jr. as your 20th ranked corner here in your top 20.
Yeah, man. I said it earlier in terms of when I started with the receivers, the first couple of receivers. I like the physicality, specifically at corners, especially at corner, in terms of what I like from my corner. And pause. But the physicality, his ability to, I mean, he be jamming folks up, bro, hemming them boys up at the line of scrimmage to the point where he can almost take guys out of the play. I think that you want to line him up with a bigger receiver. I think he's gonna eat going against that bigger receiver. I think where he may fall or may run into some trouble is down the football field in terms of what does that long speed look like here, right? So would be fantastic versus big body wide receivers due to his aggressive, strong, and active, precise hands at the snap and press man coverage. Also a concern that I had with him is what does it look like when he's playing off coverage or like it's in a stack alignment and he's not that front guy to which sure. I don't know why he wouldn't be the front guy, but not the front guy to jam and reroute guys to kind of get that thing under control, right? Take control. When guys reach him in that off coverage, he looks a little bit uncomfortable. He looks a little uneasy about in terms of what he should be doing because he's kind of maybe out of his element. So I think that's something that he's going to have to work on, whether it be it's man coverage, but it's off man, or maybe just straight in zone. So just has some work to do there. But I like his ability to be physical. And if we're talking man coverage scheme, let's get it, man. Let's get it.
All right. Let me just confirm one thing real quick before we move on. Give me just a moment here. I just want to check.
Kyle McCord was the quarterback for Ohio State. DK got
it. Yes, DK got it. Yep.
Where you transferred to? I know he transferred out.
Syracuse. I believe he's in Syracuse. Yep. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the 19th ranked corner. And Drew, you have Jerry Jones. Headley, you have Jerry Jones. And Drew, you have DJ James. I'll start with you, Drew. Let's talk about DJ James.
Yeah, I think he's going to play slot in the league, I think, and when I look at him, he's not this guy, right? So I need Juice to just relax. I'm drawing a blank. He's from Auburn. He's at the Senior Bowl. Roger McCreary. That's who he kind of reminds me of in terms of the short to intermediate game. But in terms of that's throwing me off. In terms of down the field, little bit of concern in terms of that long speed down the field, but that short to intermediate game, his ability to come up and be willing to tackle. He might miss some tackles, but his ability to stay in the hip pocket of the receiver, even if he's in zone coverage, to kind of know where he's supposed to be, watch the quarterback's eyes and read and react. I think he has good closing out speed in terms of what's happening in front of him to get to the ball or the ball carrier. And I think he's got a slimmer frame, because I was kind of going through all the corners, just kind of looking at their height and their weight, just kind of going through it. And I think he was one of the thinner corners in terms of that. So yeah, there it is, 4'2", 175. So yeah, so that was a little bit of a concern. But when I talk about nickel corners and things like that, one of the things I'm looking for is how aggressive you are. What does the click and close look like? And are you willing and able to tackle? And if you have that, I'm willing to give you the nod, because I think everything else we can work on, and we're not going to put you at a disadvantage in that slot. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about him there.
All right. From one slot corner, according to Drew, to another, you have Jerry Jones here, Headley.
Yeah, like you said, it's primary slot corner, and he's on the bigger variety of the slot corners. He's not small like DJ James. He's 6 foot, 190. So good size for a slot receiver. He has good length and speed. He ran that 4.38 at the combine. So length, speed, and exceptional job of eluding blocks from the slot in the screen game. He'll come downhill. He'll make a play. He'll hit. So Drew talked about that with DJ James, where for a slot corner, are you going to come up and hit? And Jaron Jones, he'll come up and hit, help in the run game. He could turn and pass in coverage. He's sticky in man coverage. I think he graded out a PFF 90 grade, or I think it was over 90. So excellent man corner. Like I said, he could turn and run and pass coverage. And to me, a little bit better in zone. Better in man than zone. Does a good job though of passing off routes, keeping his assignments. In zone, you got to be able to in front of you, peel off receiver, come downhill, jump a route. So I think he does man in zone pretty well, but the man skills is what stands out with Jaron Jones from the slot.
All right, let's keep it going here. Cornerback 18. Heather, you actually have Jarvis Brownlee Jr. here as your 18th ranked corner, and Drew, you have Joe Smith-Wade out of Washington State. Heather, let's talk about Brownlee Jr. Finish up the conversation on him.
Yeah, Brownlee Jr., man, the Senior Bowl. It was a couple of corners. Those one-on-one drills. It favors the wide receiver, and they win the majority of those one-on-one routes at the Senior Bowl. But it was two guys. Actually, it was more than two guys, but two guys that stood out to me that I wasn't really familiar with. Was Andrew Phillips from Kentucky and Jarvis Brownlee Jr. from Louisville. Excellent. He played man press. He can play man press or zone effectively. To me, he's one of those feisty, in your hip pocket corners. He'll put hands on you. He's a little bit on the smaller end, like Drew said, but very good hip fluidity to play in that sticky man coverage. He'll come up and make tackles in the backfield. I think he's going to be an inside corner. He played outside and inside at Louisville, but at the next level, he's probably going to be on the inside. I did see him get beat deep though on an over route against Notre Dame. He got beat a couple times, so he just got to watch out for getting beat deep. Even though he has good speed, I think he has a propensity to get beat very deep. But he triggers downhill quickly. Quick inside releases can get a step on him. But he's very feisty, very handsy corner. At the next level though, some of those are going to be penalties. So you got to get your hands off the receiver down the field, especially at the NFL level. There should be some flags. So I like his feistiness. I like his aggressiveness. He just got to just cool it down a little bit at the next level and just trust his technique, trust his feet, and trust his instincts.
You mentioned it, and I think Drew, he touched on it as well, right? In the deeper areas of the field is where he tends to lose leverage. It's more of a technique issue. It's not a lack of foot speed necessarily. It really does come down to his technique there. Drew, Smith-Wade, your thoughts on him?
Yeah, my first exposure to him was at the Senior Bowl, and just like Jarvis Brownlee Jr. And the number one thing that I noticed about him immediately is that he's just a fighter, man. And at the cornerback position, it's one of those where, you got next play, like short memory, right? That's probably the number one thing you hear about the cornerback position. You got to have a short memory. And even when he was beat, come back the next play, fighting, physical. Is a guy who's going to hang in the hip pocket of the receiver, and you make a play, he's going to come back 2 plays later, he's going to make a play, right? He's going to make sure that you know that he's there. He's another slender guy. I think though, with his skill set, because he can hang in that hip pocket, because he plays the ball well, because he has some nice hips. I think he can play on the outside. I think he play on the inside too, but I would probably want him more on the outside, the boundary. And just the competitiveness with Smith-Wade, man. Just listen. I talk about physicality, but the other thing that I'm gonna talk about is always fighting, bro. Always in the ear of the receiver, man. Those things through 4 quarters, that can mean something, could change something. And so, that's why I got him here at 18.
All right. Moving right along here through our cornerbacks, our top 20 cornerbacks here for Drew and Headley in the 2024 NFL Draft. Headley, you have Elijah Jones at 17 and Drew, Kyrie Jackson. So, Headley, you had Kyrie Jackson at 20. Drew, a little higher on Jackson. Why is that?
Size, bro. Size, physicality. He's coming from one big program to the next big program. And I think he got injured this year too, so he missed some time, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
So, so he didn't really get to showcase him. As a matter of fact, I think he got hurt in the first Washington game, if I'm not mistaken. So he didn't really get to showcase it entirely, although he got beat a couple of times. But that's also a guy with a short memory. Like Headley was saying, I think he is a guy who has to, you probably want him either in that press coverage or you want him, in the cover 3 where he can read and react, use the length.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably where he's going to have to live. But I think you take some shots with him. You can change things up a little bit, getting physical at the line of scrimmage, slowing guys down. And with that length and that strength that he has, you don't have the fluidest of hips being that size. But I think his length can make up for it, and his speed can make up for it, man. So yeah, that's why I got him at 17, man.
Headley, you too low on my guy Elijah Jones, man. You too low.
That's the first thing I was gonna say, man. I think Juice gonna say I'm too low on Elijah Jones. Got him at cornerback 17. Where you got him, Drew? Juice, you got him? Is he top 10 for you?
I think he's a top 10 corner for me. Yeah.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
That's high praise. Yeah. But I like his game. It's nothing I could say, like, it's a couple of things I could say negatively. I think his hips are a little tight, but he has inside.
He's a boundary guy. He's a boundary guy. Yep.
Yeah, they played him inside and outside, so he has the versatility, but I love him on the outside. I thought on the inside against some of those shiftier receivers, I think they beat him a little bit, but he's a long corner with length. He plays all the way through the catch point, come up and make a tackle. So he's one of those physical corners. He has a versatility in zone or man, pressure off. I think he disengages from the receivers, blocks really good. Speaks more to what he does in the run game. Like I said, a little hip fluidity. Hips are a little tight, not as fluid, but very aware cornerback. He reads the quarterback eyes really well, and really good ball skills. That's the thing about corners that you like, man. A guy that can turn the football over, read the quarterback, attack the football in the air, and take it the other way, man. But I did have some questions on the long speed before the combine, but he ran like a 4.4, so he checked that box for me with the long speed. So he probably gonna be a better pro than he was in college, man. And you say you cornerback, top 10 cornerback. So with the size and his instincts in the passing game, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean a little bit of a projection there, but the ball skills and the explosiveness in terms of what he represents from an athletic standpoint, I think with some more coaching and more technical refinement, he's going to be an excellent boundary corner. And as you mentioned, he played inside too, but he is a boundary corner. You want him on the outside. You want him on the outside numbers, whether it be zone or man. Of course, you can play him in the cover 3, but I'm perfectly comfortable with him in press man coverage as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Elijah Jones. Dana was referring to Shaw Smith-Wade. Listen, he gets beat, bro. He gets beat. Yeah. He gets beat. It's just he's one of those players that is probably going to stick for a long time because he's going to make plays. He has a short memory. It doesn't waver, and he makes corrections in game. I think he's definitely a day 3 guy, but I certainly see him as one of those players that sticks around a long time because he makes enough plays in order to do so. He's going to help out on special teams as well. So it's a top 20. So I really like the way he bounced back in Mobile, right? Day 1, to Dana's point, he really struggled. And then he made the corrections and had an excellent rest of the Senior Bowl practices. All right. Headley, you have DJ James as your 16th ranked corner, and Drew slightly higher on Elijah Jones. Again, still too low, but slightly higher. Let's talk about DJ James, Headley.
I first put on the LSU tape, the Texas A&M tape, and I was like, "Yo, this guy misses a lot of tackles." I kind of had his teammate Namar Pritchard ahead of him for a while, but then when I threw on the Alabama game, he cleaned up those tackling. Very feisty corner, fluid mover. He could drive and close quickly, so he has that click and close ability. Against Jermaine Burton, which is a bigger receiver, I saw him put his hands on him and kind of knock him off his route. So that physicality for his size, like he says, 173 or something like that. So being feisty and physical, I think he's gonna be a slot corner at the next level. So you need that feistiness, you need that physicality, and he showed it to me in the Alabama game. I thought he was one of the best defenders on the field that day. He did get beat at the end with that. I don't know what that was, that Hail Mary. It was more the safety fault, but it was on his side of the field. But other than that, man, I like how he competes, man. He competes, very sticky coverage. You saw it at the Senior Bowl. He was in hit pockets all week long and very feisty.
Is there a scenario where DJ James can play on the perimeter in your mind?
I think he's too small. I think he's going to be on the inside.
Okay, fair enough. Drew, your thoughts on Elijah Jones?
Yeah, man. Y'all said a lot about him, but the thing that I noticed that I liked a lot is that and a lot of corners don't do this, and it's weird, right? You're on the boundary, you got the sideline, and we don't use a sideline, bro. We act like it doesn't exist, bro. Mm-hmm. There are a couple corners in this draft that do that well, and I think Elijah Jones does that well. I also think Kalen Carson does that well. And I think a guy coming up later here, we'll talk about Cam Hart. I think they do that well by using the sideline. It's an extra defender. Use it. Has good size, good length. I talked about in terms of his ability to play both man and zone. So I think he gives you that good combination of mix, so he doesn't get pigeonholed like some corners that we're probably going to talk about later. That may get pigeonholed or probably the better fit. Not going to pigeonhole, but get a better fit in a specific scheme. So I think he kind of gives you best of both worlds. And then obviously you got to look at him in the slot. I think he fares well in the slot, but again, as we spoke, I think he's going to have to make his living on the outside just because of his skill set.
You alluded to, or didn't allude to, you mentioned his name, Kalen Carson, not in either of your top 20. I mean, I just want to put it on.
I thought about it, bro.
Why did he fall outside of your top 20?
Business decisions.
Inconsistency. That's the two words right there.
Okay. Business decisions and inconsistency. All right, fair enough. Headley, you've talked about it that he doesn't play with enough dog in your mind, right? The temperament isn't necessarily what you want it to be to play corner at the NFL level. So certainly understand that. I think he's talented, man. I think he's talented.
Yeah.
I think it's, to your point, you don't want to have to question whether or not how much he wants it. You understand what I'm saying? I know, and based on what you're seeing, he isn't necessarily demonstrating that play in and play out. So understood. I just want to get it on wax because I certainly have him in my top 20, although I'm much lower on him than I was during summer scouting, for sure. Cornerback 15, Smith Wade, Headley, and Andrew Phillips enters the fray here for you, Drew. Headley, let's talk about Smith Wade. Let's finish the conversation on him.
Yeah, when I saw him at the Senior Bowl day one, I'm like, why is this guy out here, man? He was getting beat like a drum. And Dana said it, man. Even on tape, you see him get beat. But he just competed, man. Day 2 was better than day 1. Day 3 was better than day 2. And then I went and watched the tape, and I love this competitiveness. It stands out how competitive he is in the run and the pass game. He battles all the way through the wide receiver chest to the catch point. I love that about him. Nice movement ability to mirror and match. He has that quick twitch to him. Very explosive clicking ability. I just want to see him get more guys down. He kind of dives at their feet a little bit, and he will miss some tackles. And discipline. I think his discipline was off. That's probably why you saw him get beat a lot, Dana, because in zone coverage especially, he kind of takes the bait. He kind of moves up. It gets beat behind him. Hitting the long speed. Yeah, he's a little bit too aggressive, and he ran a 4.54. And that long speed kind of showed on tape where he struggled to keep up with like the deep crossers. But I think he has a size and build to make a move to the inside. I think he has to be an inside corner because of his feistiness, his aggressiveness, his competitiveness. I think he can live on the inside against slot receivers, because on the outside, I think the long speed, his over aggressiveness sometimes works against him. Face guarding, he does a lot of face guarding and not turning his head and making a play on the ball deep down the field. So I think easy move will put him into the slot, and I think he'd be a better corner there at the next level.
I like it. Andrew Phillips, Drew.
Yeah, man. We how many guys we got in here for the Senior Bowl, bro?
A lot.
Damn, bro. I mean,
a lot,
we
bro.
saw him in person, man. And this was a guy that you couldn't miss out on the football field at the Senior Bowl, man. He was like glue on the receiver. Even when the receiver made the catch, bro, there was just really no space. He was all over him. I know he's what, 5'11", 190. And he's going to fight with you all the way through the snap, all the way to you catching the ball hitting the ground. He never gives up. It's not necessarily trying to press you or trying to hem you up at the line of scrimmage, but he's a guy that's just going to hang in your hip pocket all the way through. I like his click and close. I like his hips. It's not what's it, 5W20. You know what I'm saying? It's not super oily.
It's not Shakira. It's not Shakira.
There we go. It's not Shakira. But they smooth enough for him to contend on the outside and to stay consistent. I know one of the concerns that Headley have, and I do have, that is his ability. And I think somebody else had it in the previous live, was his ability to tackle, right? And so when we talk about your ability to tackle, is it you coming up there screaming, trying to kill somebody, or is it you out there making business decisions, right? And so I think he has to come up with a little bit more control. I think his size maybe he feels like he's a little small, so he has to come up there and try to lower the boom and lay folks out. When we just need you to take a guy to the ground, man. So that may be a technique thing and a conversation that needs to be had with cornerback coach.
All right, moving on to cornerback 14. We just had the conversation with Andrew Phillips for Drew. Headley, you have Phillips at 14, and Drew, you have TJ Tampa coming in at 14. Let's finish the conversation with Andrew Phillips first. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Headley.
that Senior Bowl, like I said, it was him and Jarvis Brownlee Jr. Really showcased their man-to-man skills at the Senior Bowl. And it's kind of like even Quinyon Mitchell, the guy we're going to talk about later, where we saw a lot of zone coverage, on tape in college, and they checked the box that they could cover man-to-man. Also, I thought Andrew Phillips did that at the Senior Bowl. He turns run and locate the football. I think he has inside-outside versatility. And because even when he gets beat deep, he's always in good position. I just want him to turn his head, attack the football. Let's attack the football better at the highest point. And also, Drew talked about it, man. He got to break down a little better when he comes up to tackle. He has that aggressive mindset, but he needs to wrap up. You got to wrap up, man. And he has to watch for PIs down the field where, like I said, he could turn, he could locate. He just doesn't attack the ball like I want him to attack the ball. He kind of panics a little bit and pass interference. You saw it against Jamari Thrash.
Moment of truth.
Jamari Thrash caught him on a release. He gained really good position. He had some he got that makeup speed, but he didn't get his head around and attack the football at the highest point, pass interference. And then you see the next rep where he did it perfectly against Jamari Thrash and broke the football up. So just getting more consistent with that. But he has clicking ability. He can play zone, man, outside, inside. I love his aggressive nature. Just got to wrap up tackling, man. He has a lot of upside, man. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted higher than a lot of people think.
Drew, let's talk TJ Tampa.
Yeah, man. TJ Tampa, when I turned on the tape, I wasn't sure what I was going to see, but I'm telling you right now, the first thing that you see, he's probably the best tackling corner in the country, bro, across the board, easily. Because he's coming up with the mindset of this guy's going to the ground, whether it be receiver, quarterback, running back, whoever it is, you're going to the ground, strong hands like a linebacker, just pull you down, get you down to the ground. I think he has exceptional click and close. I love that about him. He's physical. I think he's most comfortable getting his hands on the receiver, kind of trailing, hanging in the hip pocket of the receiver, being physical throughout the route of the receiver, and then making a play on the football. You kind of question his long speed, and you kind of question them hips, bro. They're not oily, bro. They're a little stiff, right? But you can tell immediately when you watch it on tape. So the thing is how to beat him deep. So he needs to position himself to where he's kind of in that trail, not the trail, but in the bailout, get out and go But that's a question that I have that it may show up on tape. But that short to intermediate game, hey man, I'm gonna give him the head nod all day long. But down the field, I got a little bit of a question in terms of, you might lose your receiver from time to time, man.
D-Kid, I regret to inform you and the audience that Kalen King is not in the top 20. He played himself right up out of the top 20. he just played himself right out of it. And Dana, I actually have a 3-round mock draft coming out tomorrow, and the landing spot. I think you'll be happy with what I did with the Cardinals. I'll just tease that. I think you'll be pleased. But Tampa was an interesting placement for me in this mock draft, and I thought one of the really intriguing landing spots, and I believe where I ultimately had him selected, to give you guys a little bit of a preview here, is Kansas City. I think with Spags, I think in terms of what is his physicality, in terms of press coverage, the fact that Spags is going to force the ball out quickly, right? Whether it's the down line getting after it, or if Spags needs to speed up the quarterback and send extra rushers, they expect their corners to tackle. They expect their corners to be physical. I think that's a really good landing spot. So I want to see him impress alignment. I absolutely want to see him impress alignment. Man is okay, but certainly if you're playing a bevy of cover 2, right, and you can allow him to, another cover 6. Of course, cover 6 is very in vogue in the league now. Allow him to play on that short side of the field and beat people up and be a force edge defender against the run as well. All right, cornerback number 13 in Drew and Headley's rankings is Josh Newton. All right, you guys are synced up here in terms of who your cornerback 13 is. And Drew, let's hear what you have to say about Josh Newton.
Yeah, bro. Was super high on him coming into this draft cycle. I think he had to be top 5 for sure. I think we were we always kept trying to push him every week, trying to make him top 3 before we actually started digging.
You wanted it more than he did. You wanted it more than he did, bro.
Damn, bro. Damn. Yeah, you might. I mean, you might be right. I'll say this: the 2022 tape that's probably the tape that you wanna look at. And he would definitely be in the top 10 watching that tape. I think he gives you the best of both worlds in terms of inside corner or outside corner. This year he struggled mightily on the outside versus specific teams, specific players, Xavier Worthy, to be exact, in terms of getting beat. And I think he got beat by a couple of receivers the receiver for Colorado. There you go. Travis Hunter. It was a battle between those two. He got some too, but I like his ability to kind of stay in the hip pocket of the receiver. I think he has some physicality to his game. And I think he can play, whether it be man, zone. I think he can mix it up. And also I think he has a good knack to kind of get his head around and attempt to get his hand on the football down the football field.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Headley.
Yeah, Josh Newton, Drew said it, man. He's a physical, feisty. I think he has versatility to play the inside or outside cornerback. He'll get in wide receivers' faces, put hands on them. I like how he competes through the catch point. He could turn his head and run to the football. It was a play in 2022 against Xavier Worthy. I know Worthy did him in 2023, but it was a slot fade to Xavier Worthy in 2022 where he ran down the field with him and forced an incomplete pass, turned his head around, and that's no small feat, keeping up with 4.21 speed, and he did it really well. And, he struggled a little bit, so I had to go back to the tape in 2023, and, I noticed something with Josh Newton where, in press coverage, he's fine, but in off-man coverage, especially deep down the field, that's where he struggles, man. That's where guys could blow by him. I think his backpedaling is a little bit too late to turn his body and turn his hips and run down the field. So I kind of like him more in if it's man coverage, it's press. If it's zone coverage, I like him maybe in a cover 2 kind of scheme where he could keep everything in front of him. Doesn't really have to run deep down the field. So I think the scheme is going to be big for Josh Newton because I love his swag, his attitude. We talk about the cornerback position, man. A big attribute is to have that swag and that attitude. You got to forget the last play that happened. had to have that short memory. I think he has that. So, I just want to see him in the right scheme to kind of like elevate his true potential. And he's not one of those corners making business decisions. We talked about a guy earlier making business decisions, and that's not Josh Newton, man. He plays with a chip on his shoulder at all times. So, yeah, it's still a guy I like, but he's not in my top 10 right now. He's cornerback 13 for me.
All right, moving right along here to the 12th ranked cornerbacks, respectively. Headley, you have DJ Tampa, whom Drew was just speaking of. And Drew, you have Max Melton checking in as your 12th ranked corner. Headley, your thoughts on Tampa?
Well, he's big. He's 6'2", 185. He probably even could put on a little more weight, but Drew said it, man. He's one of the best tackling corners in the class. The thing about him is very uncomfortable in his backpedaling. His hips is still stiff. So, because I watched 2022 and 2023, and I'm thinking, maybe he shored it up a little bit, but nah, the hips are still stiff. So the route runners could put him in a bind, put him on that yo-yo, especially on those out-breaking routes. I think on in-breaking routes, he has the makeup speed to kind of catch up across the middle of the field. But when guys run those out routes on him, he's just not close, man. It's not close with him. I know some were discussing maybe a move to safety will be good because, he's a physical guy. He can come up and tackle, don't have to be on that island on the outside. So, it'd be interesting to see what NFL teams think about that. Coverage. I think he's much more comfortable in press. Everything's tight. We don't want him with too much space. Just want him in tight coverage. He runs really well. Excellent tackler. Got pretty good length as well. So, he's a case study for me right now with TJ Tampa to see what he's going to be at the next level.
Not unlike Josh Newton. I think landing spot's going to be significant for him, right? And how he's ultimately deployed. I've considered the premise of moving him to safety as well because he's such a good tackler. He can kind of he's a good job of tackling in space, but certainly you want him challenging the receivers at the line of scrimmage and generally keeping things in front of him. So understood. Drew, your thoughts on Max Melton?
Yeah, man, Max Melton is and I think I was poo-pooing on him. I think
you were.
You still are, bro.
You still are. I was just gonna say that. You still are.
That's too low, bro.
Because why? Because he outside the top 10?
Yeah. Yeah, he shouldn't be outside top 10.
They say you're still too low on Max Melton. What's your concern here with Max Melton?
So, well, let me get to the positives right quick before I forget the positives. Then we get to the negatives. Come on, bro. Bad news first? Nah. So for me, Max Melton, I think he might be probably top 3 smartest corners or DBs. Let me say DB. Let me clean it up. Because that's throwing the safety in there too. So now we'll leave it at cornerback. Top 3 smartest cornerbacks, I think, in this class, because there's a lot of plays that he makes that he probably shouldn't be making that actually have nothing to do with his man or his area, but because he understands what's happening in front of him. He whether it be watching the tape, maybe he saw it before in a previous play or previous series, he's able to read and react, and he has those instincts. So I think that alone, to me, maybe puts him as a nickel corner, because I think he does, has that willing and able to come up to make the tackle. I think he keeps everything in front of him for the most part. Concerns that I have with him, and he uses his length and his strength very well as well. But the concerns I have with him is, bringing guys to the ground, taking proper angles. Where I'm watching on tape and I'm like, okay, that he should make that, and he just misses it because it's I'm not sure, spacing. I'm not really sure, but guys come around the corner, a guy catches a pass and he just takes the wrong angle. Maybe leaves his feet a little too soon. Maybe a little too anxious to make the tackle, wants to make the tackle, whatever. But he's got to clean that part of his game up. But in terms of his ability to cover, I think he's pretty damn good. And I think it's to the short to intermediate, maybe down the field might be an issue. But that was another guy that we also saw at the Senior Bowl who y'all fell in love with. So
Say y'all. You already say y'all.
Yeah, say y'all.
No, Drew was hard on him in Mobile. I thought he had a good showing. I thought
there's a lot of flat-footed, getting beat in the one-on-ones. I was holding against him too much, man. Maybe.
All right, let's move on to cornerback number 11 here in your rankings. Headley, you have Renardo Green and Drew Kamari Lassiter Okay, so I think with Max Melton and Lassiter, if I'm not mistaken, you got pretty big disparities in terms of your rankings. Headley, I'll start with you in terms of actually, Drew. Let's start with you. Let's talk about Kamari Lassiter.
All right, man. So it took me a while to watch this guy, man. And when I turned on the tape, this is another guy. He might be the second best tackler, I think, for the cornerback class, because he's about that life coming up, sticking guys, making sure that they feel him when he's coming up. Pause. He played a lot of from what I saw, a lot of off coverage from maybe the games that I watched. And I thought he was, he played well. I think he has good has excellent click and close ability. I think Georgia understood that, we can't necessarily ask this guy to run down the field 40 yards, 50 yards down the field with the receiver, because I think his long speed may be a question, might still be a question. But in terms of keeping everything in front of him, this might be a cover 3 corner or cover 2 corner in a zone scheme. I think that's probably where he fits best.
All right, let's talk about your guy, Renardo Green here, Headley.
Yeah, we always talk about it, man. The big time matchups for Renardo Green, that Malik Neighbors game against LSU, first game of the season. He put his name on the map with that game, man. Sticky man-to-man coverage, very fluid in man coverage. He also plays with really good recognition on the boundary. He doesn't take the bait. We talked about some other corners that would take the bait, give it the big plays, but now he stays in phase. He does his job, and that's kind of what you want. As your DB, man, you want to do your job. You don't want to do too much. So I like him. He's very competitive in all aspects, from coverage to tackling. Like I said, his man skills stood out. Very sticky, great feet and the hips to turn and tackle the football. Smart and safe for cornerback. He gets between the receiver and the ball. The ball and the receiver, man. He's really good out there doing that. And then against Jamari Thrash also, man. I know that was a low-scoring game in Louisville, but against Louisville, but he did his thing there too, man. So the man-to-man skills is for real. Him and his countermate, Jarian Jones, man, very good man corners for Florida State. I think he could come in right away and be a physical man-to-man corner.
Yeah, DK, we touched on it when we were discussing TJ Tampa. I think depending, I believe some teams will view him as a safety. I do. I think there'll be certain organizations that say, hey, no, we got a plan for him at corner. We're going to let him beat guys up on the boundary. And there may be a handful of teams that feel he's better suited for the safety position. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that. We're breaking into the top 10 here in your cornerback rankings. Headley, you have Cam Hart, another favorite of mine, and Drew, the aforementioned Jarian Jones. Since Headley just talked about, Renardo Green, since Headley just talked about Renardo Green, let's finish the conversation there, Drew.
Yep, he's got a quality I like, man. That man's about that life in the run game, in the pass game, being physical at the line of scrimmage. I had to give him the head nod, man, because listen, he was all over Neighbors. He was in his ear. The physicality and the Headley you talked about earlier in terms of got that swag, bro. That man carried his swag. Might have the most top five swag with the corners. I think he has good feet, and we talked about it in terms of his ability to play the boundary very, very well. He's one of these other corners, along with the guy standing right next to him, and Cam Hart that plays the boundary well. Will use the sideline to his advantage, and he understands what's kind of happening in front of him. He doesn't get, as I said, doesn't take the bait or the cheese.
The cheese, yeah.
You don't take the cheese. Matter of fact, he might be the guy that can take the cheese without getting his back broke, if you know what I'm saying, if you ever seen those mouse traps. But yeah, man, but yeah, man, that's why I got him at number 8. And I hate to say it
at 10.
8,
at 10, he wears.
10. I'm looking at his number.
Yeah,
number 10. Yeah.
I hear a lot of praise for Renardo Green, but he's at 10 and 11 for you guys respectively. Why isn't he a little higher?
Bro, you seen the guys in front?
Some guys, yeah, some guys in front.
Some guys. Let's talk Cam Hart.
Yeah, Cam Hart, man. Yeah, this is a CPGM favorite. You guys are banging the drum on him. What I like about him is he can play all the cornerback positions: left corner, right corner, slot. They moved him around the football field at Notre Dame a lot. I think his hips are not as fluid, but his strength is his ability. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He could turn and run. I think he's a cover 3 type defender plus athleticism. You know, he has that click and close ability, come up and tackle, and he's very instinctive. He's smart. You know, like I said, being able to play all three positions, being smart, being knowing when to peel off of receivers, jump on a shorter route. I think that's his biggest asset, other than his size and length, which, you know, you see it right there. He 6'3", 200, long arms, but very smart, very instinctive corner as well, and he can come up and tackle, man. I like Cam Hart a lot.
All right. That covers your 10th ranked corners, respectively. We move on to CB9. And Headley, you have Chris Abrams-Drain and of course the aforementioned Cam Hart for you, Drew. Let's finalize the conversation around Cam Hart. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, big, physical, competitor. I mean, well, you know what I'm saying?
It's getting late. It's getting late.
It's getting late.
We got to talk him out. That was your guy, isn't it? That was your guy.
That is my guy. No, that's actually, I think Juice was talking about more.
Nah,
than me,
that's my guy. Yeah, that's my guy.
I know it's one of y'all.
Yeah.
Uses the boundary well. Has a short memory. Like all the boxes that you want checked from a corner in terms of, you know, being in the intangibles. I think he checks all those boxes. And then you talk about the tangibles, the physicality, his ability to again use the boundary to push receivers out of bounds. Like Headley said, what game was that? It was the Ohio State game where he was kind of used all over the place, but I think he fared very well covering Marvin Harrison, right? And that's not a guy that you're going to be able to just stop. But I think he fared very well dealing with the different issues that Marvin Harrison can present, right? Even when he got beat, he was able to kind of come back and make a couple of plays. He's a guy who's going to come up, he's going to stick you in the run game. And I think a lot of teams are going to covet. You know, he's not the fastest. You know, he's not the hips aren't as fluid, but everything else, I think you're going to look and say, okay, you know what? He has the size, he has the smarts. He can play inside, outside. So this is a guy that, you know, I think that teams are going to covet big time, and I think he's probably going to go higher than most people realize.
Yeah, I think the NFL really likes Cam Hart. I think the NFL is going to really like Cam Hart. And I think when it's all said and done, we're going to see that the NFL really likes Elijah Jones as well. You know, you guys mentioned that they're not necessarily the most fluid, and that's understandable, right? Because they're bigger, longer limbed corners. Right? Cam Hart is legit 6'3". You know, Elijah Jones is a shade under 6'2". He's almost down near 6'2". So obviously they're longer limbed players, but of course I really appreciate their IQ and the fact that they do have some flexibility in terms of alignment. And you mentioned it, Drew, and it's a huge sticking point for me. How there's so many defenders, regardless of position, don't understand that the sideline is an extra defender. Right. And that just speaks to their awareness and their smarts as well. So they check the boxes from an athletics perspective for me. They're explosive athletes as well. So, yeah, man, if you're looking for boundary corners, and you mentioned Cam Hart can play inside, outside, I'd leave him on the boundary and be good with it. In man coverage and cover three, I feel strongly about those two players. I expect Cam Hart to go in the second round. I think he's going to go as high as the second round. I think Elijah Jones is a day 2 pick as well. So we'll see how it plays out. Headley, Abrams-Drain is a player that you really like. You've talked about his ball skills. Your thoughts on him?
You know, Missouri played him inside, outside versatility. But I think at the next level, he might be an inside corner due to the size and the play strength. But, you know, he moves really well. He breaks on the football quickly. Lots of pass breakups, interceptions. Like you said it earlier, man, the ball skills. I think he has one of the best ball skills in the entire class. You know, I saw a play against Xavier Legette when he ran a slant on him. He kind of beat him a little bit, but the makeup speed was there. The ball was a little bit behind Legette, but he came and broke that pass up. He mixes up his coverages really well, off man press, zone, man defense. He put his hands on receivers. He'll turn and run. But his greatest attribute is, you know, playing the football in the air, great time into the flat passes, tracks the football really well in the air. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a receiver or something in high school. Those ball skills are rare, man, and he's kind of the type of guy at the next level can rack up 5, 6, 7 interceptions, man, because of those ball skills.
Moving right along, cornerback 8, you guys are synced up here with Ennis Rakestraw. Let's start with you, Headley. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, this was a guy I had as a top 5 corner for a while. Just the You know, the competitiveness, the physicality in the slot, just his hips. Real. We talk about guys not as sticky hips, but his hips are really sticky. But you know, he's small on the smaller end. He didn't run the fastest 40 times, so I had to bump him down a little bit to number 8 here. But you know, against South Carolina, he came up in passing down situations. He lined up over the slot. He has the inside-outside versatility. He could turn and run, good hip flexibility. I think football IQ. I think that's one of the biggest things with Rakestraw. That's his understanding of the game. You see it on field when he's pointing out things to other guys, getting them lined up. And, you know, that shows that he's a leader on the football field and he knows where everyone should be lined up. So I like that about him a lot. Like I said, he put hands on the receivers, real feisty, and really strong cover ability. I think outside or inside. So, you know, that play speed might bring him on the inside because of that 40 time and that size. But, man, he showed a really good tape playing. Like we talked about Neighbors, that matchup he had with Neighbors, he did pretty well there. So he showed a really good tape on the outside and the inside. So, you know, I like Ennis Rakestraw.
Yeah, I think he's the top, or rather the first corner off the board in day 2. He ran a faster 40. But watching him, the technique, the speed doesn't show up as an issue, right? So that obviously gives me some confidence in terms of, you know, maybe just wasn't necessarily the best 40, right? But I thought had he had a stronger pre-draft process, we're talking about the very first corner off the board on day 2. Go ahead, Drew, get in there.
Yeah, man. Watching that LSU game, listen, he had a plan, bro, and he stuck to that plan in terms of being physical. It wasn't necessarily. Now, I think he needs. I don't want to say this. His plan should probably be to be a press man, aggressive corner. But in that LSU game, that wasn't the plan. And so I think you saw a different set of skills in terms of not being physical right at the snap, but I'm gonna be physical through the route. And it was consistent, it was effective. And I think you saw that through his game. Headley talked about, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Max Melton in terms of playing that inside position and kind of being where you're not supposed to be, but being where you're supposed to be, right? And being able to make plays on the football consistently. I think he's a good tackler. Yeah, man. Corner 8.
All right. Corner 7. Max Melton for you, Headley, and the aforementioned Abrams Drain. Let's finalize our conversation around Abrams Drain, Drew.
Yeah, man. So for me, I thought he looked more comfortable in off coverage, where he can mirror, match, and locate the football and attack the football and be consistent there. I think he has good feet. I think Missouri's starting to produce some guys. Although I say that, and then next year they don't produce any cornerbacks. But but I think he's a good tackler. And I just lost my train of thought.
Are we not concerned about his size in terms of being able to play on the boundary? Do you guys view him as a slot?
I know Headley said it earlier.
Yeah, I think slot because of the size and the play strength, but the ball skills, man, he's really good at that. So, but I see him as a slot, but he did it really well outside and inside at Missouri.
So I'm gonna disagree, and I'm gonna disagree for that reason right there. It is the ball skills, right? Okay. So, you know, maybe you play. He ends up on a team where you can kind of play matchups. Like, okay, this game in particular, right? Because of this particular receiver, this particular scheme, we want you on the inside or the outside, whatever it is, how they see him. But I think he can play either or. I don't think that holds him back.
Yeah, I think Shanti Samuels, man, he wasn't the biggest corner, but he played on the outside because of those ball skills, man.
Gotcha.
Here we go.
Headley, why was Drew too low on Max Melton?
Here we go, bro.
Too low, man. I think D-Kid put in the comments also that, you know, you were too low on Max Melton. I think these guys are bunched up for me with Rakestraw, Max Melton, Lassiter, and Mikey Center still, because when you describe all of those guys, it's competitiveness, man. Very feisty. You want your corners to be competitive. You want them to be feisty. You want them to be able to get dirty, and that's what Max Melton does. He likes to get hands on the wide receivers. He has the inside outside versatility. he really brings as a nickel cornerback. I think that's going to be his home at the next level. I think he has good hips to mirror and match wide receivers. He'll help in the run support. And he has good length and athleticism. I didn't realize how athletic he was until those testing numbers, man. And you match his competitiveness with the length and that athleticism. I think he's going to go a lot earlier than people think, man. He has versatility in zone or man. But like I said, I like to see him in that press man from the slot. But he mixes up his coverages really well and a lot of experience, man. He was a 4-year starter over there at Rutgers. So he has everything NFL teams like, man. He has everything. The intangibles. His brother played. Smart football player, length, athleticism. Yeah, I think he goes early, man. I think he goes round 2.
Yeah, I think he solidified the round 2 billing in the pre-draft process, right? You like what he does on film. At least we do. Drew doesn't, but we do.
Come on, bro.
Certainly, you know, checking those boxes from an athletic perspective, I think has vaulted him into the second round for sure. All right, corner number 6. And this one's a little interesting, right? Headley, you have Kamari Lassiter. Again, a bit of a disparity there with Drew. And Drew, you have Cooper DeJean coming here in at 6. Now, I assume you view him primarily as a safety, right?
Yeah,
and Headley,
but I didn't want to leave him out of the cornerback.
I got you. Now I won't bury the lead. Headley, you left him off your corner rankings. He's safety through and through for you as it relates to your rankings. So
now, I went back and forth. I went back and
fair
forth.
enough.
What to put him as a corner and a safety. He could play corner in certain schemes. But I think to maximize his potential, to make him that Pro Bowl player, he gotta have to be that safety nickel hybrid, kind of like what Brian Branch is doing right now for the Lions, man. But you know, Drew's gonna talk about him. You know, he put him in the cornerback rankings. But if I was grading him, he'd probably be cornerback 5 for me if he was a cornerback in my rankings.
If you had him in the rankings, gotcha. Okay, let's talk about Lassiter, and then we'll get to Drew and his coverage of Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, like I said, man, these guys are bunched up. Ray Straw, Mikey Sainristil, Max Melton, Lassiter, because they just the intensity they play with. Lassiter has very good click and close ability. You'll see him blow up screens on his side of the field. Feisty, he'll come up and hit. He's very comfortable underneath. And, you know, I guess the 40 time really showed why, you know, that's where his strengths are, because I don't think he's running deep down the field. You got to come downhill. Maybe like a cover 2 defense, man, where he could stay close to the line of scrimmage, because he's very comfortable on underneath routes. He uses athleticism and ball skills to play the ball. I like his matchup with Leggett. He battled him. He held his own against Xavier Leggett in that matchup. I think he's one of the better run supporting corners. I think Drew said the second best behind TJ Tampa. I can't really disagree with that. He competes at the catch point. Got that pit bull mentality that I like in my cornerbacks. Intensity, swag that you're looking for the position. And then football IQ, man. I always talk about football IQ at the cornerback position, just reading the coverages, knowing where you need to be. So the speed might not be there, but if you know where you need to be and you get there before the receiver gets there, it kind of makes up for your lack of speed. So, you know, I like him there, man. So I think he's a guy that, you know, the speed might drop him down the drawer, but he'll end up with a team where you're like, how did he end up here? And he'll produce for them for years to come.
Yeah, you know, I'm splitting the difference here, Dana, because I've heard reports of mid to high 4.5s, and you know, low to mid 4.6. So I'm gonna split the difference to say 4.6. The long speed shows up. The issues in terms of long speed show up on tape. And Headley, I remember a conversation we had very early in the process, and we were watching the Lassiter tape, and we were like, are they teaching like a trail technique, or what's happening? Because Lassiter always seemed to be in position, but when the routes, you know, when it was a slower developing play and the routes traveled further downfield, he tended to be in a trail position. And I think it is a byproduct of his speed. And to your point, I think that may be what pushes him down. Now, some team might fall in love with him and say, listen, we play a particular brand of football. Our scheme plays to his strengths. And if you play to his strengths, he's an excellent cornerback. But certainly the long speed is a concern. Drew, your thoughts on Cooper DeJean as a corner, right? We're much higher on him as a safety. But certainly as a corner, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so he's most likely going to have to play in a heavily zone scheme, cover 2, cover 3. Leave him out there by him or on one side of the field to cover one portion of the field, because I think he's highly intellectual in terms of what's happening in front of him and coming downhill, closing on the ball or the receiver or whatever it is to make the play on the football. You see it consistently at Iowa. You know, the one thing is because he played so much off, you wonder, okay, is this the scheme or is this him? Right. So, and I think when you go back and you watch the tape and you look at him at goal line, I think Juicy had brought this up in the summer scouting in terms of him being at the goal line. Okay, now we get to see what it looks like when he's a little bit closer to the receiver and he's about a half a step just behind whatever's happening, right? So again, is that him being uncomfortable in that position, or is that just he don't need to be doing that whatsoever, right? And him being injured, getting injured and not being able to kind of see him through the entire season and the process kind of hurts him a little bit. But in terms of his skill set, man, sit back, let him watch, see what's happening in front of him. Again, you didn't get a lot of man-to-man coverage. I'd imagine, I would think his speed is fine. Again, I don't know, but in terms of him making a play on the football and seeing what's happening in front of him, I love to see it, man. And if he's in that cover 3 scheme, we talked about, was it Tyree Jackson earlier being in that cover 3 scheme? That's where we want him. This is another guy who cover 3 scheme would fit him well. He probably would be a better safety just because the importance of the position in terms of, and again, got to play the right scheme if you're doing that. I don't think you throw him out there at single high or anything like that consistently, but that's kind of why I got him at cornerback 6.
Yeah, I think to your point, I mean, I think you said it all really, truly. The technique, I just don't see the technique on a consistent basis in terms of man coverage, right? Off man zone coverage, he looks comfortable. He looks phenomenal in space, and I don't even think it's an athleticism. I think he's actually a really great athlete, and we just didn't get to necessarily confirm all of that with testing numbers because of an injury. But there's no mistake in my mind, no doubt in my mind in terms of his athletic prowess. I think he checks the boxes there. It's a technique thing. That's the way I view it. As far as being able to hold up as a corner in any scheme, right? I just don't know that he has a technical prowess for that. But the way he plays in space, and Headley mentioned it, being that a hybrid safety nickel a la a Brian Branch, I think to your point, he could be one of the best in the league. So certainly understanding of how you ranked him here. Considering, you're looking at it through the prism of, the full gamut of responsibilities at the corner position. All right. We move into the top 5, and believe it or not, Headley and Drew are synced. They are in lockstep. They did not know this until moments before we went live. They are in lockstep among their top 5 corners here. So at number 5, Mikey Sanders still out of Michigan. Headley, let's get it started here.
Yeah, Mikey, man, that's our guy, I guess, Drew. I was surprised you have him in the top 5. I didn't know you're so high on him, but I'm super high on him as well. As a former wide receiver turned cornerback, he plays predominantly closer to the box. He's kind of like a nickel pseudo linebacker. A lot of them up in the slot as well. They'll rush him off the edge. He's so versatile. We say versatile is a new safety, but I guess versatile is a new nickel cornerback also because, I even saw him play on the outside against Harrison Jr. and Booker in that Ohio State game. I was like, this guy can pretty much play anywhere. He'll come up and hit, make plays close to the line of scrimmage. I like when he puts hands on wide receivers, and he has that stack and shed ability. We talk about stack and shed when we talk about linebackers, but he's doing it from the corner position, man, stacking and shedding, getting to the ball carrier. He's comfortable in zone, in man. I think he's at a quick twitch, fluid hips, stay close to receivers. He comes up and hits pass catchers. He dislodges the ball from wide receivers' hands. I think the trouble that he runs into is covering deeper down the field. He's least effective down the field. So you kind of want him more into the box. And because he could hunt, he could decipher, he could work through trash really well. And, as a former wide receiver, very smart, very instinctive. They talked about it in that Washington game where he was calling out all the plays, against Jalen McMillan and those Husky receivers. He was calling out the offensive plays to his defensive staff. So, that offensive background really helps him as a DB. And, man, I love him, man. Number 0 for Michigan, Mikey Sanders still. I don't know if much people have him in their top 5 corners, but he makes CPGM's top 5.
So before you wax, Drew, let's establish something here. So Headley said he went back to some scouting videos. I think we were discussing Michigan and Washington, and you confirmed that Jabbar Muhammad was Drew's guy. All right,
Oh
you
yeah, I saw
confirmed
that.
and then you also claimed who did you claim?
Will Johnson, CB1. That's my guy. You see that's the thing right there, bro.
I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
I talked about him on the live. I was like, yo, that cornerback from Michigan, this freshman year, I was like, that's the real deal.
Yeah, you said it, but how does that become your guy? Because you said that, bro. Everybody knows, bro.
No,
everybody
they
knows.
didn't know when I said it. They didn't know when I said it, bro. I said it
Summer
early,
scouting?
bro.
I said it early.
I said before summer scouting, man, from his freshman year.
All right,
come on, man.
So all right. So
let me get my guy, man.
So if
I can't get him,
we got to have a conversation about that. But with that being said, Mikey is my guy, bro. If we're gonna use that same
you can have Mikey. You can have Mikey.
You can have
Mikey. I said he was all our guys. That's how I started the conversation. This is all of our guys, bro. But he's your guy, man. You can have Mikey.
All right. This man said Johnson. That's my guy. Stamp it already. Okay.
All right. Early.
Drew, your thoughts on Mikey?
I forgot what I was gonna say, bro. Y'all boys talking wild. So when you think about the nickel position, right? I kind of think of it in two ways, right? And maybe some guys can have it all, right? I think of it from the intermediate to the you have the short to intermediate, and then you have the intermediate to long. And I think Mikey has to live in that short to intermediate, but he's so good in that area. And Headley talked about in terms of his ability to play like a linebacker and be extremely instinctual in terms of what is happening in front of him and calling stuff out like he's the middle linebacker of the defense and be able to line people up and tell people where to be. I mean, that's crazy, bro, from the nickel position, right? And he's always around the football. There's a couple of safeties in this draft that are like that or similar to him in terms of that. I think he's obviously the top guy when it comes to that, but he's always around the football. You're not going to be able to, unless it's down the field, as Headley spoke, that maybe that's probably his one mark on him is down the football field. But Michigan never really put him in a position to have to suffer through or have to be exposed to any of that. They understood who he is and what he is as a football player, and they kept him close to the line of scrimmage, and whether it be man, zone, didn't really matter. Physical at the point of attack, man. So I think some teams will be a little bit lower on them because they don't necessarily need that type of player. But if you need that type of player, he the first dude off. He got to come. He's got to come on this team, man, big time.
The football IQ is off the charts, bro. It's off the charts, bro. Yep. And for the last, I'd say 4 to 5 years, we've seen the proliferation of nickel defenses, right? 2 linebackers instead of a base 4-3 or a base 3-4 necessarily. You have 5 defensive backs on the field, and the nickel is indispensable. Whether it's that hybrid safety slot defender or just a pure nickel corner, he's a force run defender in terms of setting the edge. He's a blitzer, right? He's obviously heavily involved in terms of the pass defense because there are more throws at or behind the line of scrimmage than ever. You understand what I'm saying? So it's indispensable. So I mean, unless you got a Kenny Moore or a Brian Branch or a Mike Hilton or something like that, you probably can use a Saber still. You probably can use that guy. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, I think he's going to have a very good market here in the 2024 NFL draft. All right. Mr. C. Prasky asked, did you stamp it, though?
I stamped it, bro. I stamped it, bro. I know everybody knows Will Johnson now, but when I spoke about him, he was kind of an unknown, man.
Oh man, I don't know about that one, Headley. I don't know.
Go back to the tape.
So this is what I will say. This is what I will say, and I'm unfamiliar because I don't follow the when the freshmen come in and the highly talented 5 stars. I don't follow any of that stuff. So I think he was a 5-star recruit. So it's a little
So you can't claim 5-star guys.
I'm just saying, bro.
I don't think
your claim.
That's our rule.
Your claim that he was a a
Unknown.
relative unknown. I'm just not buying it, bro. I'm not
Okay.
buying it, man.
So
I'm
yeah,
gonna
we
check
need
the
to
tape though. I'm gonna check the
listen.
tape. I'm gonna
Go
check
back.
the
Go
tape.
back.
We need to put some
I'm gonna
parameters
check the
around it
tape.
because if it is a 5-star guy, right, and he's a freshman, bro, I don't think you can claim that guy. What I think you can do, if he ends up transferring because he sucked at his first school or they get no run, then you can stamp him. Other than that, bro, I don't think you can do that, bro. Because if that's the case, I'm gonna go down rivals and I'm just gonna grab every 5-star. Yeah, I'm saying
Nah,
stamp
don't
him.
work that way, man.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Anna, to your question here, I think it comes down to the scheme. It has less to do with the alignment and more to the scheme. He is very much more comfortable in terms of off coverage, but press is an alignment, not necessarily the technique. I want to keep that in. We tend to use the term interchangeably here, but press is just the alignment. It's bump and run. It's physical man coverage that I think he doesn't necessarily demonstrate the technique to do that at a high enough level to remain at corner. And if you thrive in off coverage, whether it be zone or even at times man coverage, that's going to limit what you can do, right? That you're tipping your hand at times with respect to that. So I think in a zone intensive scheme, he can play the boundary corner. I believe that, right? Headley mentioned if he had added him to his list, he'd be cornerback 5. Drew had him at 6. So there's no doubt that he could do it in a scheme that really highlights his ability to play in space. But I think there's another level of goodness that you get out of Cooper DeJean if you play him at that safety nickel hybrid for sure. All right. Number 4 on your 2024 cornerback rankings headed for this 2024 NFL draft is Kool-Aid McKinstry. Drew, you're our SEC guy. What are your thoughts on Kool-Aid?
Yeah, man, he was actually cornerback 1 for a little bit. That was before the real unknown, right? Took that, and y'all probably know who I'm talking about.
Took the league by storm.
Took the league by storm. Kool-Aid is a physical corner. He can play the man, he can play the zone, he played inside, he played outside. He most of the time when I saw him playing, he was the left side corner, whether it be in the slot or on the outside. Yeah, because Bama do be doing some strange things, but it works for them. I think he has the requisite speed that you want from the position. I know early on, I think Headley was questioning kind of his long speed. I don't know if he's still questioning that. And his ability to come up and tackle, bro. He's probably the 3rd best tackling corner in the country, bro, because he's willing, he's able. I saw a report where they were like he's a poor tackler. I don't know what game they was watching, but I'm gonna disagree with that. And he plays through the ball when going horizontally. So if it's across, I'm running across the
those
formation,
mesh routes and stuff.
Yeah. He's playing through the football. Kind of, I think where he kind of gets in trouble though is a little bit down the field, getting his head around, kind of making a play on the football, especially towards the boundary. I think he had a little trouble with that this year, but there's not too many chinks in his armor. But he's got some stuff that he has to clean up in terms of his technique. But everything else that you would want from the position, I think he gives you all of that.
You guys want to address the kid's comment here before Headley you get to Kool-Aid?
Lassiter, that cornerback, I think it's because of Lassiter's hips, his ability. His hips are a little more fluid than DeJean. DeJean's a little more stiff. And I think DeJean could be an all-pro safety. That's why I want DeJean at safety. Not that he can't play corner. I just think at safety position, he could be an all-pro there.
I think DeJean is a superior player in space. I think short areas, Lassiter, and that's why you kind of leave him at corner. You don't want Lassiter out there covering a bunch of ground. You don't. You don't want that. You want him kind of, within that 10 to, line of scrimmage to 15 yards, right? And coming forward. That's what you want from Lassiter. But DeJean, I can do so many different things with his skill set. You understand what I'm saying? And whether it be, too high, single high, on the boundary, again, in the box, I think he just is a superior player in space, where Lassiter probably is a little bit better in terms of those short areas. All right, go ahead, Headley.
I agree with that. And the last point I want to make on that too is I said if DeJohn was a corner, he'd be ahead of Lassiter. So I think he is a better corner than Lassiter. It's just I would rather him at safety. All right.
All right.
We got Kool-Aid, man. Sticky man-to-man corner. Fluid movement ability. I think he has great feet to transition and be in the hip pocket of wide receivers at the stem. Even when the wide receiver catches the football, he's right there to avoid yak. Like Drew says, I like him coming up and tackling. I like you said, it was some reports. Someone say he doesn't tackle well. He tackles well to me. You said his third best tackler. I wouldn't put him third because I think his teammate that we're going to talk about later tackles a little bit better than him. Yeah, Terry and Arnold, but he has that makeup speed to cover for his missteps. Like you said, deep down the field, I'm not sure if it's the back pedal or transitioning, to run deep down the field where, the guys do get behind him, but he does have that makeup speed to catch up. And like you said, running horizontally on those mesh routes, those crossers, a lot of speed there to catch up, kind of like TJ Temple I spoke about earlier. He has that speed to catch up on those horizontal routes. And a game, the 2022 tape against Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, they were dominating everybody out there until they met with Kool-Aid, man. They kind of stayed away from Kool-Aid. He was locked down in that game. And so, he put not his name on the map, but, he solidified his spot. And then this season, I think his teammate kind of took it over, like you said earlier. But he has that prototypical length and size. And he'll come up and tackle, like we said earlier, man. To me, the cornerback class, it's the big four. We talked about the big three and the wide receivers. I think the big four in the corners and Kool-Aid is a part of that four for me. And then after that, then 5 through 8, I think is a tear break.
All right. Moving to the top 3, you have Nate Wiggins as cornerback number 3 here, Headley.
Yeah, Nate Wiggins, man. This is your guy, right? Right, Juice?
Yeah.
Was he a 5-star recruit? Was he a 5-star recruit? Can we count him, man? I'm gonna be petty with that now.
Yeah. He might have been, though. He might have been, bro. He might have been.
But he had the length, athleticism, 6'2". He'll come up and tackle. But the question I had about him, because I love him in zone defense. I think he's probably the top zone corner in this class. Him or probably Quinyon Mitchell. But the thing I had about him was when the moment of truth, when his back is to the quarterback, I didn't like his coverage ability. Sometimes I thought he panicked a little bit too much there. But with everything in front of him, man, he's excellent, man. He's got those long arms, could deflect passes. Once he catches the ball, he could take it to the house with that 4.2 speed. And the other issue I had about him, he came in weighing at 173 at the combine. He probably was trying to run a fast 40, but I don't think he can play at 173 at the next level. He got to watch out for injuries. Bigger receivers just trying to body him. But that zone corner, man, he keeps his eye on the football. He does a really good job of keeping his eyes on the quarterback, reading and reacting. Love his feet, his movement ability, his tenacity at the catch point. And to me, he just got to get a little stronger. He got to get stronger. You got to put on some more weight, and you got to watch deep down the field with his back to the quarterback. Everything else is excellent for him, man, because read and react. He'll come up and hit. He'll catch interceptions. He'll take it to the house. He has a lot of abilities, the speed, the length. It's just a couple concerns I have with him, but he's still my cornerback 3.
Go ahead,
yeah, bro. I mean, damn, bro, you took the whole gambit there, bro. But concern I can speak about in terms of him was and Juice gonna rebut this because I think he had dropped a video. I'm not sure what it was. I can't remember, man. In terms of his, if the play ain't coming his way, is he gonna show up? I'm not saying he loafing, but are you looking like what's really going on? And he got 2 back-to-back plays. I think was that a short that you posted? What was that?
Yeah, it was a short. It was a short.
Okay, couldn't remember. Where he was running folks down, and I think he had stripped the ball from was it the Miami running back, bro? I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, he's not
North Carolina.
No more. Yeah,
talking about Hampton.
Yeah, it was Hampton, but it was also one against Brashad Smith. But
so both back to back. So that kind of cleaned that up in terms of not giving up on plays and paying attention and being where you're supposed to be. Headley talked about in terms of him. I mean, he's cornerback 3. When you watch, a lot of it is either turn and run or it was just straight up off coverage. And you wonder sometimes when teams do that, like, okay, well, is it a speed thing? Is it a technique thing? Is it a hips thing? Like why are we doing this, right? Or is it other players around him that we gotta do it this way because we gotta protect the team? But then you see the close on the football, and you're like, oh, okay. You see the instincts of going for passes, not necessarily that are for his receiver that's in his area, but he's
primary
able to make
coverage.
plays.
Mhm.
Right. I see this. Oh, let me go. I've seen this before. Let me go over here and slide over and see if I can get some or clean this up or make it just a little bit more difficult for the quarterback. So it talks about his instincts, play recognition, and his smarts, man. So, again, guys playing off that much, he has the speed, but Headley talked about it in terms of, that turning and locating the football and making plays on the football. So that'll, I think, will continue to be a concern because it's not something that you saw a lot. But everything else in terms of his game, man, is pretty tight, and I can understand why he's your cornerback one, Juice, because when it's good, bro, it's real good, right? Nice and buttoned up.
Yeah, I think I've settled on him being cornerback too. I think I've settled there.
Okay.
But for a long time I had him as my cornerback one. And as the chat has mentioned, he was sick going into the combine. So, that weight was actually closer to what he entered Clemson at. I think there's some issues with the coaching at Clemson, bro. I really do think there's some issues with Clemson. We've talked about it a lot in terms of the offensive scheme over the years. Venables is no longer there. He's in Oklahoma now. I think Wiggins is going to be real good, bro. I think he's going to be real good when he gets to the league here. Obviously he demonstrated his talent in Clemson, but I think his best football is still ahead of him. And by the way, he was a 4-star recruit, so it checks out. All right. Cornerback 2 is none other than the Kits guy, Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. Get it started, Drew.
I wanted to put him at cornerback 1 so bad. One just to be different, but I just couldn't do it, and it's simply because of the consistent competition from week to week. I had to knock him for it. I'm gonna knock him for it. Plus, he played a ton of off coverage, much like Nate Wiggins. He probably has the best click and close in the country. He got his hands on the ball a lot, or he separated the football from the defender a lot. Super able, willing tackler. And at the Senior Bowl, man, you saw him in man coverage. It was the one box that we wanted to check. At least said, hey, man, Shakira, what them hips do, right? And we found out what them hips do. They lock receivers down. I'm in your hip pocket. I'm getting on your nerves. Like, he was there consistently. I think he got beat twice. He got beat by Brendan Rice on one because of the physicality. And then Roman Wilson, I think his feet just got tied up. So I don't think he necessarily got beat there. But yeah, man, he to the point where he didn't even have to finish practicing, man. You put on the tape and watch him. I wasn't expecting all of what I saw, bro.
Mm-mm.
Like, if he was at a different school that wasn't Toledo, straight up Power 5, it's probably cornerback 1, bro.
I did it, bro.
I did cornerback one.
Yeah, I did.
So you got him and then Wiggins.
I got him, the Wiggins, and then Arnold. But I mean, Wiggins and Arnold are like the same grade for me. Yeah. I gave Mitchell the edge because I just think the ceiling's higher. I think the ceiling's higher, bro.
Yeah, what he did at the Senior Bowl, like he had some boxes to check for me. Yep. One of them was tackling, which that box still hasn't checked yet because he didn't really tackle at the Senior Bowl. But that man-to-man press skill, man, he checked that box in spades. He was the best guy out there, and he showed it, man. Because in college at Toledo, he played a lot of off coverage. But Drew said he got that click and close ability. He breaks on the football quickly, could read and react. But the ball skills. So he showed the ball skills in college, showed the ball skills at the Senior Bowl. And he showed that sticky man-to-man also at the Senior Bowl too. So when you put the size with the 4.3 speed, with the ball skills that could play man, dominated the zone in college, dominated man at the Senior Bowl, it's just cornerback 1. I'm not mad at cornerback 1. I was thinking about it too, Drew. I was like, him and Arnold could go back and forth, but I ultimately landed with Arnold because of the tackling ability. And like you said, just every week he's playing against upper echelon competition. Because at Toledo, he didn't really get challenged that much. They were going on the other side of the field. And when he did get challenged, he made some plays. He made a play in the conference championship game at Toledo. Incredible speed, athleticism, played the ball deep down the field. So he showed those skills at that conference championship game. But what he's done after the season, the Senior Bowl, the Combine, yeah, he could easily be cornerback 1, man. But right now, like I'm with Drew, he's cornerback 2.
And I'm not gonna knock it. I'm not gonna knock it. I think gets lost here, and of course he had to check the boxes for me, right? He in terms of what does it look like when you're in that tight press alignment, man coverage. What are you doing with your offhand? Are you keeping your eyes on that outside hip? And you understand what I'm saying? And he knows the science, bro. Like that's the reason why Terrion Arnold, I would imagine, the competition, along with the fact that the tackling, and of course Terrion Arnold's the technique, right? Mitchell has the technique, bro. He's got the upper echelon athleticism, but he has the technique too, bro. I don't think he's getting enough credit for that, right? People are blown away by the ball skills and the athletic testing, right? But when you put that all together and then you add the technical prowess and understanding the science on top of it, it's impressive, bro. That's the reason why I had to put him at number 1. I had to. I couldn't get my head wrapped around. Okay, if he's checking this box, that box, and this one on top of that, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of the tackling. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. All right. D-Kid is protesting because Quinion is not your cornerback 1. Terrion Arnold is the top cornerback in the 2024 NFL draft class, according to Drew and Headley. And why is that, Headley?
Man, the 2022 tape I thought was a little rough. He didn't. Kool-Aid was the guy over there, but that first game against Texas, he really made a name for himself, man, because he was the one getting challenged. They were kind of staying away from Kool-Aid in that game, and he showed up playing and played out, physicality to come up and hit. I think, like we said, the cornerback 1 and 2 debate is because of the dog. It's because of the dog of Terrion Arnold compared to Quinion Mitchell. It was a play where he eluded Jatavian Sanders and made a tackle of Xavier Worthy in an open field. That could have easily been a touchdown with Xavier Worthy's speed, but him shutting that down in the game, man, I really like his ability to click and close. I love how he attacked and played with physicality in 2023 compared to 2022. And he has that skill set to be that versatile chess piece. I could move him outside. I could put him back inside. He could travel with the best receiver. He could play man. He could play zone. So that's another edge that I give a little bit over Quinion Mitchell. But they're cornerback 1s and quarterback 2s, man. He had good ball skills deep down the field. He predominantly played that left cornerback position. Alabama, they don't do too much movement from the left to right, but he played left and he played slot and he competes through the catch point. And just his mindset, man, his mindset's are very different from a lot of corners. A lot of corners like to make business decisions. They don't like to tackle. They don't like to do the physical parts of the game. But Terrion has that, and he just competes through the catch point. He plays, like I think you said it earlier, Juice, in a previous live. He plays through the receiver's chest. And, he's right there, that sticky man-to-man.
He's textbook, bro.
Textbook coverage, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Drew.
I was going to do I was going to kind of clean it up with D-Kid because I know he wasn't happy with the decision to have Terrion as cornerback 1, but I forgot, man, waiting on Headley to finish. But, Terrion, I think, is not that Quinion is not a complete corner, but when you talk about him playing the week-to-week matchup and Kool-Aid, teams know that Kool-Aid was the cornerback 1 for Bama, so Terrion was getting attacked, right? That's the guy. It's like, okay,
he's tested. He's battle tested,
exactly,
no doubt,
right?
No doubt.
So that's kind of why the separation between Terrion and Quinion Mitchell is because of that, because he's being tested every week against the best competition, and he makes plays here, he makes plays there, to the point where, not to say you forgot about Kool-Aid, but you're like, okay, well, who the hell is this number 3 guy? Like, what's going on here, right? From his ability to tackle, from his ability to attack the football when it's in the air, his ability to get in the receiver's ear, to be around the football, to just consistently, all you've seen is number 3, man. So, and to what's the word? Usurp? Am I using that right? Usurp.
Yep.
Kool-Aid from cornerback 1 to now we're talking about Terrion and he did it more consistently than Kool-Aid did in terms of all areas of playing the cornerback position. So I think when you have it that way, I think you gotta give him the nod, man, because anytime you got guys that are kind of close to each other, okay, what is the determining factor that can eliminate one guy from the other, right? So we got to look at level of competition. Now we got to look at who were you matched up from week to week, right? So Headley's got the tackling thing. For me, it's the competition and the fact that he was challenged every week because Kool-Aid was the guy on the other side. So and he was there every week, man. So I got to give him the head nod.
Not mad at it. Arnold is complete, bro.
Yep.
He is complete. Whereas you might have a question mark here or there with the other top corners in the class. He and as you mentioned, he's battle tested, right? He wasn't viewed as the guy to stay away from. You know what I mean? And of course, that leap he took from 2022 to 2023 could very well lead to him being the first corner selected in the 2024 NFL draft. Great stuff, gentlemen. Great stuff here with your top 15 wide receiver rankings and your top 20 cornerback rankings for the 2024 NFL draft. I believe Mr. C. Prasky had a question for us. What is your question, Mr. C. Prasky? Hit us up there in the comments. Let's see here. We got Dana with a comment. Yeah.
That's what we speak about.
That's real
right
talk. That's real
right
talk.
there.
That's
See D
real
quick
talk.
comment right there. If they regard Chase and Higgins, I think that's interchangeable, bro. I think both could guard
think they would move
either
them.
ones.
Yeah, I don't think they would move him. They just leave him.
Not mad at it. All right, Mr. C. Prasky, what's going on, man? Before we sign off out of here, again, great show, fellas. A lot of great information. We'll break this up into a couple of standalone videos. Be on the lookout for our mock draft or my mock draft. I did one a couple months ago. I figured it was time to jump back in there now that we're closer to finalizing everything as far as our rankings, our draft board. There'll be some surprises, as I mentioned, Dana. I think I did you proud in terms of Arizona. Although your feedback regarding the cornerback position, you might have preferred someone else here, but certainly, again, for our entire audience, be on the lookout for that tomorrow on the channel. I want to know what happened. It's good to get back to prominence.
Well, you're talking about our individual schools, like Florida State, Miami, UF.
You're just talking in general.
Oh, in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and NIL has kind of changed everything, so it's a little hard.
It's for each of us. The question is for each of us.
So for me, for the Gators, they're gonna have to recruit better. I think they're kind of heading in the right direction with that. I think NIL kind of hurt them though, because they were making promises that they necessarily didn't come through on, so they lost some players. But recruiting, and I don't know that, and we might have to hire a different coach. I don't think your boy is. I forgot his damn name. I got him picture, but I can't think of his name. But yeah, I think we might have to have a new coach for the Gators, man. I think that's kind of where it's
Billy Napier.
I knew it was Billy. I just couldn't think of his last name. But yeah.
Well, Florida State, man. I just think the Gators and the Hurricanes got to catch up. We just went undefeated. We got robbed right there. But you guys just got to catch up to us, man, because I think we got the coach in place.
Bro.
Hey, I'm answering this. It's a serious question, man. I'm trying to help Mr. C out.
No, I got you, bro. But y'all live in the portal, though, bro. Like the past 2 years, y'all live in the portal,
and we're gonna continue to live in the portal. We just lost a lot of seniors, man. A lot of guys. So we just got to replenish that. I think the coach is in place. I like Norvell from an X's and O's standpoint. I think in game he could do a little bit better, but we just got to just recruit and hit the portal up again, because that's where we got all our guys. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, man. Let's head back to the portal and secure that quarterback. We need that quarterback. We got DJU.
I'll say this. I think the biggest difference between the three schools. I mean, there are substantial differences, right? There are different points in terms of back to national prominence, and the reason why I believe FSU was as effective as it was is because they had a lot of talent. They brought in a lot of talent from other teams. The knock on Norvell is developing players, right? That's the knock on him. But I'll give him credit for Jordan Travis. I give him a lot of credit for
Yeah,
Jordan Travis and the development
absolutely.
associated with him. And that to me was the single biggest difference between FSU, Florida, and Miami is the quarterback play. Right. And Travis became that steadying hand, and then eventually he became a difference maker for FSU. Now, let me get to my Canes. All right. Let me get to my Canes. I just need Mario to figure out how to coach in game, because from a recruiting standpoint, y'all ain't touching Mario. FSU and UF ain't touching Mario on the recruiting trail. It's not happening, bro. That's his bag. Now, in game, I don't know. I got to see something. I got to see something. Now, I am very excited. Very, very excited. I'm gonna be insufferable.
Cam Ward,
fall,
bro.
Cam Ward, bro. I'm gonna be insufferable, bro. You have no idea. All right. We're gonna take it. We're gonna smack around UF in the opener. We're gonna take care of that. And we're gonna put an end to all this FSU talk that we gotta catch up, whatever the case may be. It's coming to an end. It's coming to an end. 2 years ago.
Wait, this year? This year?
Oh yeah. This
Are
year,
y'all
my boy.
Are y'all gonna win your first ACC championship?
Probably.
It's been what,
Maybe
20
not.
year?s
Yeah, I mean, we it's been 20 years. You're right. It's been a while. It's been a minute. But yeah, I think from Miami, honestly, if Miami doesn't win 10 games this year, we have a problem. We're not going to return to prominence under Cristobal if we don't win 10 games this year. There's no reason not to. I think Miami from a roster perspective, from a quarterback perspective, is the best team in the state. Now, you have to play the games. You ultimately have to play the games. But I think getting Cam Ward, and again, this is a credit to Mario, because Cam Ward was thinking NFL, right? And bruh, if we had got Cam Ward maybe a week earlier, we would have got Jeremiah Smith too, bro. We would have got Jeremiah Smith too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm encouraged. And of course, we've gone through the Mark Richt and the Manny Diaz and so on and so forth. It's been rough. But I think we're right on the cusp. The main thing is self-scouting at this point with Miami. Miami's coaches have to understand how to navigate a game, the ebbs and flows of a game, because again, the games aren't played on the recruiting trail. Of course, the recruiting trail matters, but you have to actually play the games between the lines. So we shall see. But I'm encouraged. We definitely smacking the Gators, though. Definitely, bro. Y'all getting smacked, bro. In the swamp.
Okay.
You trying to go to the game? You trying to go? Y'all got to take a couple steps back before y'all move forward. That's the way I see it with the Gators, right? I want to see. I'm interested to see whether or not FSU can stop the bleeding, because a lot of talent just left out the door. A lot of talent left out the door. All right. So, nice question. I appreciate that question, Mr. C. Price. Anytime I get to talk about my Canes, bro, that's always fun, man. Don't shake your head. You had an opportunity to talk about your Gators. Don't shake your head.
Nah, I'm happy for y'all getting Cam Ward, bro. You know, it's been a rough for Miami, so I'm happy y'all got your quarterback.
The quarterback has been a bit of a challenge for sure. And you mentioned what it takes. I think you got to do a better job of keeping some of the South Florida kids home. Headley, you already know what time it is. You got to keep more of them kids home. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see about it. We'll be back Friday evening, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to continue working on the rankings. I'm not sure what two position groups just yet. Maybe we poll the community and get a sense of what people would like to hear on Friday. But we'll definitely be back live on Friday. Do us a favor. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Those of you on Twitter, just jump on over to YouTube. Real quick, right? You can go to our main profile handle on Twitter, X, and then hit the like button, man. We appreciate it. For Drew, Headley, this is Juice. We will see you guys next week. What's up, J2K? Check you guys out next week. Or not next week. This Friday. My bad. This Friday. See you then.
Yeah.